you are at your core an experiencer, period. You have free will. You are an experiencer, a consciousness with unbounded free will, which is a catastrophic combination. It's very powerful. It's powerful in the sense that consciousness by its nature is infinitely creative. You could infinitely create with unbounded free will absolutely anything you want. And unfortunately, you don't know how you're doing it. So you don't generally create what you want. You create absolute chaos. You could do anything to yourself infinitely. So that being the case, we call you, consciousness with unbounded free will. You are put into a physical reality, and we call that the labyrinth. And it has a set of, it's like a multiplayer video game environment. It's a program that runs. And we say, well, you're put into it, but it's also put into you. I see some mic requests, and I'll give them out as soon as I'm done the introduction here. So you're in the labyrinth, and the point of the labyrinth, we're going to try and go slow, is to temper your creation through time, space, and a bunch of other laws that we can't even begin to explain, not now, that allows you to see your creations in real time, real slowed down, and through multiple incarnations of the physical self. And you're experiencing all of this in what we call your room. Your room is basically your consciousness. Anything that is in your conscious awareness is your room. It's your reflection. So we have this discussion about the paradox of there are others, there are not others. If everything is me, is that solipsism? There are others, and you will never meet them in a sense, because you will always only exist in your own consciousness, ever. But moving towards the unconditional love thing, because it's so easy for someone to go, well, if I'm the only one, it's just me, and you're all my hallucination, and you don't matter. And we say, everyone is you. They're not your hallucination, they're you. So the topic we very much want to dig into today is when you understand that you're at the helm of the entire reality, it's your dream, and everything that's happening in the world is in myriad complex ways that you don't yet understand, yours, and taking responsibility for it in a sense, which we know is contentious for some people, and we're happy to address it. But it is the nature of your reality, and the more you understand it, the less contentious you will feel towards it, and the less paradoxical it would seem. But it's hard until you really get it. And those who have had the experiences of near death, or ayahuasca in some cases, or visionary experiences will understand this, because they'll have seen it. So we'll leave that introduction there and pause for a moment and see if there are questions or comments before we move forward. We see people coming in and coming out. We know that it's a really specific topic, that this isn't a space for people to go back and forth as much. So it's a hands-based space. Go ahead, Max. You requested a mic.
I'm listening. I'm not sure what my connection's doing right now. Give me a second here to compose myself, and I'll be here in just a minute.
Sure. So, in the podcast, I talked about what is unconditional love. And maybe I'll sink into Robin now to do this one. That was the very Aerathian room mechanics introduction. And I think I want to talk about the unconditional love, although Aerath did most of the talking in the podcast. And I think it was a really good episode. But I want to talk about my experience sinking into this state, and how it came about, and like, what even is it? So, the journey for me began in 2020, when the world shut down and I started meditating, and in that meditation, when I stopped being someone who was constantly reaching for things, working on my business, my writing, my friends and social situations, all of it just, as soon as I started meditating and as soon as the world seemed to be, it was like it had gone from particle to wave. Everything was up for grabs and it felt free. And this wave of pure love came over me where I looked at myself in the mirror and I was not looking at the angles of my face or the way somebody else might see me or whether it was beautiful or not. I just fucking loved it. I just loved it. Like, I loved myself, and not because I was beautiful. And every cell in my body, and I loved myself again, not because I was perfect. Like, there was no part of me that I didn't give love to, because it wasn't selective. It was total. And then that love began to be evident in everything else. And I say in the podcast, unconditional love is when you love the lamppost as much as the flower. It doesn't have to be anything. And you start to recognize that everything in your reality as an extension of yourself, once you love yourself, and you see those things with the same love. And we can go into the love your enemy territory with that as well. So this is some of the biggest work in the room, because so much of room mechanics, what this is, the way the whole thing is set up, is to have you confronting, having you see your reflection over and over and over again, your creation, your dream, your nightmares, your fears, your desires, your aversions, manifesting slowly, arduously in physical reality. You're able to slowly, hopefully, organize yourself by responding to them, recognizing them as self and integrating them, understanding and accepting them, and steering your reality more and more with conscientiousness. And the fastest way to do that is to do it operating from a state of love. And that is a love that isn't desirous. It doesn't need anything, ever, from anybody. And it's also not selflessly giving. I'm not talking about doing good deeds. I'm not talking about even tolerating someone. I'm not even talking about liking someone. I don't like you. Go away. I love you. And I hope you are well. Really, truly. So I'll take a pause again. I see no hands. But I'm happy to invite, if you want to go on a tangent, because I said all of this in the podcast. And I always find that these spaces really get going when people come in with good questions, and we bounce around in that way, or stories or insights.
I will take you up on that offer then.
Sure.
I have considered unconditional love before. This isn't a new word for me. One of my difficulties with it is that in even attempting to define it, I am applying a condition of sorts to it. And so, I'm sort of stuck when it comes to describing that which is in a way indescribable.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, unconditional love is, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I can find it or see it or feel it or sense it or smell it or taste it or any of the other ways to examine it, if you will, in anything and everything that I've sought it through.
What do you mean by sought it through?
Well, that again poses that difficult, because in the seeking it through, you're viewing unconditional love through unconditional love, or via unconditional love. Like, let's take a pebble, for example, a very simple object. It's rock, it's physical, it's made up of certain established elements. And yet when I spend time and awareness and my energy considering the rock, feeling it, being with it, the story behind it opens up. The possibilities within it are brought to the surface of the mind for consideration. In a sense, there's moments where it becomes me and I become it, and there's a recollection of a time where being a rock was the most beautiful experience ever.
Right.
And this is something that I've found not just with pebbles and rocks, but that's a perfect example.
Right. I see. And I see what you mean by the tension, because it's the seeking it through and then putting it through the mental filters. So then you're taking it and engaging with your mind and finding that place. And there's love in it, in that, and beauty and insight. But it's that very elusive paradox that you mentioned. The moment you go seeking for it and the moment the mind gets hold of it, it's somewhat not the thing, right? And we thought about this before starting the space, which is the best space we could hold on unconditional love would be silent. We would all be sitting in the living room together feeling. So, because, the mind getting a hold of it never quite lives up to the thing itself. And when you've really hit on it, and it's funny even saying it like that, but it's when there's no thought, there's nothing. It's just, there's the pebble and the love is already innate within you. So therefore the pebble is in on it with you. Right. So it's like one more step because you look at the pebble and you recognize that you are it, or you have been it, because you have been all things, are all things. And that one more step is to recognize it is now all that is you, and to fall in love with the dream, just period. But I love that share. We always have the most quiet rooms. We'll see, we're expecting some more. Hi, Switch. Yeah, we do have a lot to say on the topic, but we want to go slow, and we do want to encourage conversation. I wonder if I would love people to share their own definitions of love and unconditional love. It's easier in many cases, almost all cases, to love a pebble than a person, because people are difficult. So there's a fine art, and if we'll just keep talking, and if anyone wants to come in, put up your hand, we welcome it. But for instance, when I came into this state, I had to go isolate in the country for 2 years straight, and then sort of still remained isolated in cities because I didn't know how to balance myself out with humans. Either, it's like when you come into pure love without wisdom, and we'll talk about the needing to balance the love with the wisdom to protect yourself and others in a sense. But when you melt into pure, unintellectual, uninhibited love, it creates like clear and present danger in the world because of the nature of people. Like you become like a wide-eyed child who is very easy to take all their candy, and it's very easy for you to give the shirt off of your back to everybody, and you almost can tend to put on the rose-colored glasses and start to see everyone through the lens of their perfection. And that can be a trap. That can be a trap in two ways. One, your dopamine levels can get too spiked and you can end up bipolar. Literally. You can walk around with so much love and bliss for so long that you imbalance yourself and you're bound for a fall. You can also become addicted to the feeling of love, and that's similar in the similar vein. And then the rose-colored glasses, which you walk around seeing the light in everyone and you don't see the fangs. And you've got to have the wisdom to balance it out, to say, I love you, but boy, are you ever a monster. Oh, let's see. Switch has posted something here. I offer a definition of love is to offer oneself, another, a choice. I like that. That goes to free will. And from the 12th dimensional perspective, the greatest gift you can give a creation, the greatest gift you can give a consciousness is unbounded free will, even though it's the most dangerous, which is the position that you're in. And then for humans, as the more power you acquire as a human, in either material or spiritual or mental or anything, the more power you have in all the definitions of power, the more you need to be aware of others' free will. So the higher dimensional the being, the more free will wary they've got to be, because you have the power to provide such insight that you could shake someone to their core, change the trajectory of their life. And so even being aware, oh, I'm not going to say that, even though I love this person so much, and this is beautiful. Switch, thank you for bringing it to our attention. You could love someone so much that you see them walking towards the edge of a cliff, and maybe even worse than on a physical level, you could see it on a soul level, and you know that if they go on unimpeded, they're going to fall off that cliff, and it's going to be almost impossible for them to recover. And that's when the real art of respecting free will comes into play, and the soul's evolutionary journey, where you need to step back and say, they haven't asked for help. And this is their choice, in a sense. While providing every opportunity you can for an exit, putting all the exit ramps on there and saying you can take the exit ramp, but if they don't want to, you can't force them on it. But I'm interested in hearing more from you, Switch, on what you meant, because that's me riffing on your offering, really. All right, we're giving Max is having technical difficulties, so we'll give him another shot.
Is it working now?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. Love was never conditional in the first place. It seems a little bit redundant to say unconditional love.
You don't think that anyone has a conditional relationship to their love?
Their conditional relationship to their love is not love itself. Love itself is unconditional by definition.
All right. Thank you, Max. Bigfoot, you have anything to say?
That's a hard subject for me. Yeah, I understand the concept, but then I'm like, how am I supposed to implement this? I mean, I can think of a lot of situations that would very make my unconditional love evaporate pretty quickly.
Right. And that's when we get into conditionalizing it. Let's talk
Yeah,
about it, because that's the real, like, that's who I want to hear from, right? It's like, who's struggling with it to whatever degree.
I mean, I understand. I mean, I understand I understand what y'all are saying, but I mean, who could sit there and watch a loved one just be killed in front of them and have unconditional love for the killer?
Right.
I mean, maybe a few people could, maybe, and I've heard stories where some people did, but I don't think that's most people. Um, it's definitely not me,
Yeah.
but you know, I don't know. That's just what's on my mind.
I definitely am so happy that you brought that. And that's kind of where I started to hint at, like, love your enemy, right? Not easy. The last thing I want to do is say that to them and everyone's like, oh yeah, I got that. Like, none of us got it. It's hard. And I think that, and this is the love and wisdom thing too, and the love and, like, also honoring your own emotions and loving yourself first. I think that, first of all, the unconditional love doesn't discount rage. I think there's room for rage in love. Having your own emotional reaction. And this is where a lot of the a lot of people who get to a certain level with their meditation, and then the love comes, and then they read about the kind of emotional spectrum. Anger is down here, fear is down here, and love and bliss and joy are up near enlightenment. And then what they do is they cling to, they try to always be in love and joy. And they're the people, and because they want to feel enlightened, and they believe that that's the way to seem it, both to themselves and to others. And those are the people that would try to remain happy and loving in a situation like that, because they do believe that that's what enlightenment is, and it's absolutely not. It's not. Having every single natural emotional reaction to that, including hatred. And this is where we'll get really paradoxical, because you're loving even your own hatred in this. And everything at the highest levels becomes seemingly to you very paradoxical, because there's room for all of it. Because this room of yours, this reality that is all yours, it has love and hate in it. And so your best bet at navigating this thing is to find a way, let's not even say find a way, is to sink into that love in such a way, and I hope this lands, in such a way that your hatred, your anger, their evil is all still part of your core love. It's a choice you're making for yourself to be in that state and to recognize all others as part of that thing. But that doesn't mean right here and right now, that motherfucker, right? And not invalidating that you're feeling that way either. So we'll say at the highest dimensional perspective, the full spectrum of emotions, the full spectrum of reactions, and even hating people is still in the umbrella of love. And we understand how paradoxical that sounds. We do. But it's kind of like a core understanding of the whole dance, and that the whole dance is you. And at the highest level, you love it, but when you're down in the arena and that motherfucker is doing X, Y, and Z, it is, you do not want to deny your own feelings about that, ever. That's what we would say to that. And we're happy to keep talking on the subject, Bigfoot, because I think it's important. And before we go to Max, if Bigfoot wants to respond.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I hadn't really kind of looked at it like that before. From, the higher dimensional type perspective, like you're saying. That's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I think that this is why I love and I so invite all of those thoughts. I mean, when I say something like this, I know that a whole bunch of contradictory and pushback thoughts are coming up, or people are going, I don't know. And I want to hear it, because the questions and the comments like that unlock those new layers to this, because, this is the benefit of the spaces versus the podcast. We can beautifully freeform in the podcast, and we really, really want this interactive element, because you unlock new offerings, because you presented something that so many people struggle with the concept of unconditional love and love your enemy. And I think that these teachings haven't been unpacked with enough nuance. And so much of the population bumps up against them with these kinds of issues and these kinds of questions. And we really enjoy the opportunity to get in and address them, and you unlock new ways of sharing for us. Like, every time we do this, we go back to the writing, back to the books, back to the manuals with new insight and new understanding of how these things are landing with people, and how we can reform them to work more effectively. Because we see so clearly how you're at the helms of your reality, how you're in the control room, and we see you, but you can't see the controls. You're not sure how this control is affecting that reality on your screen, and you keep thinking that the reality is something that's beyond your control. And we so want you to see the nature of the control room and start going in the direction that you want to go in. Start recognizing the dream as yours and dreaming it on purpose, instead of reacting to it like it's something that's happening to you, because it is consciousness. It is your consciousness. It is just very complicated because you are very complicated. Go ahead, Max, and then Luke.
I feel like, I don't know, I tried from Real Mad Max to post the etymology of nuance, because it's quite interesting about the fog of understanding. But I feel like the conversation itself is being kind of handicapped by the English language, because it's not really clear what love means in this unconditional sense. Like, are we talking xenia? I'm going to use Greek for a second. Are we talking xenia, the love and hospitality that's shown to strangers? Are we talking about storge, the familial love?
So, Max,
Or are we talking about philia?
we understand you're going down the semantic path as you do. So what we'll do is pause there. We'll talk about our definition of love, and we'll open to the floor to talk about what we mean. But we do mean the innate, and we think we've been quite clear about this. We apologize for the inadequacies of both language and ours, but also, if we will probably not continue to entertain this commentary, because we want to keep feeling like we're massaging the topic and not like there's a pushing up against Robin's field that we don't like when you do that. So if you want to ask, let's really use your language as best we can to unpack love.
Yeah, so I'm literally just like running through a list of different words in Greek.
I understand you are.
To describe different types of love, and you take that as a pushback, because I don't know how to clarify.
I just don't like being talked to like that. Go ahead, Luke.
So many things going through my mind, but what did you say? Did you say Robin's field?
Yeah, so I bounce back and forth between Aorath is the sort of channeling I do. Aorath is a state of being in the 12th dimension, a sort of a cast of characters that I channel. So when it's we, that's Aorath speaking, and sometimes when they're speaking, they'll talk about Robin, and Robin is me, like the body, the the female person who's doing the channeling is Robin. So Eorath doesn't like the way that Robin feels when Max talks to her like that. It's a resonance thing, which is what love is. It's a resonance thing.
Understood. And I can't say for what Max was saying, but I believe you are saying that you want the frequency of the communication to be absorbed by all, right?
What do you mean by that exactly?
Uh, well, what Max was saying is he was trying to get down to the basic word of what the love was, I believe,
Yeah.
and how you're using it. But
And I would love to talk about the love. So what you're saying is love is a frequency that is felt by all as being our
yeah,
definition. Yeah. Well,
uh,
you can't determine what's felt by all, but you can determine what's felt by you, and you can feel it in such a way that it includes everything. And so it's a state of resonance. And we would go further to say too, it is, and again, we apologize for the inadequacies of language and we try our best. And what we like to do, and this is what we were getting at with Bigfoot's, in the right mood, in the right space, we would love to just feel it with you guys because language is inadequate.
so unconditional love in your waking dream, unconditional love of self is essentially what
It starts there.
yeah, it essentially would have to, yeah.
Yeah, it starts with self and it extends to everything else, which we recognize as also self. And so, and we tried to come up with an adequate definition. A few things we can say, you care, but again, you're not attached to outcome. You're not attached to whether others are well. So we want to say you care about their well-being, but you care about their well-being the same way you care about yours, but that's not enough if you don't love yourself. So the main thing here is that love is a difficult thing to intellectualize. It's a difficult thing to talk about because all definition falls short. You've really got to just feel it. And the best thing we could offer you is a state of love. Unfortunately, the agitation in this current moment is making that harder to offer, to be honest. And it's hard on Twitter Spaces, and it has been hard from day one to very often get into that state. We did beautifully at the end of our last space, and it was so nice. But Robin specifically is still recovering from a nightmare hellscape, and she is only just starting to open her heart again. And she's also aware that she's in an environment of, so there's this dance, and this is the dance we talk about with the wisdom and like not imploding in the world, because to be just pure open-hearted love, then in order to, for instance, navigate a space like this, you've got the nervous system spikes when you're talked to a certain way. You feel threat here and there. All of these other nervous system reactions happen. And you still love the person, but you're not feeling it in this moment. And so again, we can just keep dancing with it. We can keep talking about it, but I'm not going to be able to come out of this conversation with a good definition. We've just got to dance with it, I think. Go ahead, Bigfoot.
I think, as far as like unconditional love, that's what like Buddha and Jesus and, all these great masters teach, to have unconditional love. So, there must be a reason and there must be a point to it. And then you look around at the world and you see everything that happens, and, it just seems like, something unattainable, probably to most people. But then again, when I've thought about this in the past, it's like, I just don't know why all this stuff happens. And, and I just kind of like try to tell myself to just be okay with not knowing why, that there must be a reason for it. And maybe one day I'll know the reason. I don't know it now.
Have you thought about playing with believing what we offer about the labyrinth and room mechanics?
You know, yeah, I have. Yeah, I just sort of, that's sort of making sense to me. And, other than just sort of saying, well, my concept of God, what that means to me, there must be a reason for it, even though I don't know it, but I believe in and I trust in, my God concept, which would be like kind of like a Gnostic mystery God. But, it's a little bit of cold comfort and maybe a little bit not. It's just a way to wrap my head around it. And,
Right.
you know, um,
Well, it's up to you, because we can only answer in terms of our framework and our understanding. Which, if you did look, I think the Buddhists come very close to a similar understanding, and the Gnostics in a sense. But I think the Gnostics get caught up in the dream, like the dream is real. The Buddhists know that the whole thing is your dream. So the Buddhists come the closest to the same thing that we're teaching, and that Robin saw through her visionary experience, which is that it is your consciousness. And if you, and we ask you if you thought of playing with believing it, not because we're saying, well, this is true, you must believe it, but sometimes you can play with believing something for a while, just to throw it on top while you're grappling with the question of why is the world like this, looking through it through the lens of, look at it like this. I don't know if you ever have nightmares, but I'll speak as Robin. Look, people talk all the time about, not all the time, but one of the big problems with life as your own dream, your own responsibility in that sense, is they go, well, what about 2-year-olds? Well, they're eternal is the first thing we'll say. And every time my head hit the pillow as a kid, I had death-defying, torturous nightmares all night long. Not because I'm a bad person, but because that's what my consciousness does when it's unbounded. So if we're accepting that the physical reality is a slowed down, materialized dream that keeps us from nightmaring ourselves into oblivion until we can sort of figure it out, then we can extend that and say, some of the horrors we're seeing now, it's a really drawn out dream. And it follows a lot of physical structures within and of itself. But you can look around, and this is where things get really cool, because you can look at the whole world and you can say, okay, this is my nightmare. I've been working on it unconsciously for 10,000 years. And now, in this era, I'm becoming aware of the fact that it's my nightmare. And more so, I am becoming aware of how it works and how I can shift it. And so if you ever wanted to feel empowered to change the world, this framework and experimenting with it, and we sort of say, what harm could it do if you sat there for a week and just played with believing that your love, if you sat in the middle of your room, your physical room, and understood that the whole world was also your room, had a direct line to your consciousness and to your resonance and to every frequency that you ever hold and every feeling that you ever feel and have felt has rippled out to create this reality that you are living in. From there, and this is why Buddha and Jesus and all of them say, treat your neighbor as you want to be treated, and unconditional love, because, well, we'll get into karma there. What you give out, you get back, because it's you. You hit your neighbor, you hit yourself, you're just going to feel it maybe next lifetime. But if you can recognize the whole world is you shift yourself, and we mean it. If you meditated and focused yourself into a state of a calm current of love, and don't worry about what we mean by love, just feel for it. Just feel for it. And we'll say this too, like if you look at the state of the world, you could diagnose it, and we see people in spaces diagnose it a million different ways. It's these people. It's these people's fault. And like we know that some people are doing bad things, no doubt. But if you were told you could do one thing, you could give one thing to the world today that would change it, it's not going to be a political movement. It's not going to be a leader. It's going to be, what would be the key? Love. If you could get that self-love, if you could love yourself and then sit there and recognize that feeling as being permeating, as being a part of the world that you are responsible for creating, your own self-love, we can promise you this, speaking as the 12-dimensional beings, speaking as they are, we can promise you this 100,000 billion%. If you fully step into a self-acceptance, self-love, self-acceptance, a full recognition of the fucking beautiful genius creator entity that you are, in every flaw, in every misstep, in everything, and fully embrace it. If you fully got there today, you would shift the entire world, and you would notice it. You would literally, physically notice it. And we speak from experience on Earth. And others can tell you this. So that's why we say, if you feel, look for threats, if you think it's, people are hesitant to believe things, but we say just believe it for kicks and see what happens. Because is it doing anyone any good to sit there feeling like the horrible world is doing horrible things and there's nothing I can do about it, right? We have radio silence here.
To be honest, I'm sitting in the truck and it's like minus 10 degrees Celsius right now.
Oh no. You're
Yeah, I
also
can't. If I go inside, I gotta be muted and stuff. So, but I have a sense of what you're giving out, because I perceive that once you reach a state of such euphoria, perhaps you could see the outgoing ripples.
yes.
But that's just from personal experience. To think that one could just end the game completely, is that what you're saying, though?
No. We're not saying you're going to end the game completely. We're going to say
No.
you'll notice a
I
shift.
don't mean that. But at some point, no.
Oh, at some point. Well, ask your question a little bit more. Do you mean the whole labyrinth situation, the whole physical manifested game of your incarnations? Is that what you mean?
Being able to articulate the idea, perhaps, that when I'm speaking to you, I'm just speaking to myself. And we're just trying to decipher this through, and we've done this before, and we just want to get back to where we were. Maybe, perhaps, I don't know, but I'm just there floating in the wind. And I'm having a hard time with the unconditional love, because, like you said yourself, you have to start with self.
Mm-hmm.
And for self, that would be, yeah.
That's the
So I
one.
wanted one question popped into my mind. If I were to write down words of affirmations, what would you say would be good words of affirmations that one could
Ooh.
repeat to themselves to perhaps at least break down some walls?
Okay, that's a good one, and we want to give you really good ones. So allow us a moment to think. Allow us a moment to think, because there are some that could really, really do some good things here. Hold on a moment.
Right. And do you want me to write them down and dictate them, or are you able to dictate them into a little tweet and then send it out? Is that something?
I'll dictate them and I'll write them down as well so that I can tweet them later.
Okay.
But let me see if we hit on the right ones here. Well, we're going to play before we arrive at it, and we'll play together getting there, because the first thing we want to say is so unconditionality. We just say there is, okay, we're going to get philosophical before we get to the affirmations, and in this way we'll show you our thought process, and then we can come up with them together, more or less, or maybe we will through this. But we've been thinking about the bardo in Buddhism, and in Robin's experience, she went through a living bardo, and one of the things that happens towards the end, Robin specifically was ushered into hell, and she was told that she had to go there to burn off karma from bad things that she had done while she was in war in her head. So bad things she had believed she had done to the astral beings. And this is a trick. And this is a paradox we want to be so careful about, okay? Because on the one hand, this is really tricky operation. On the one hand, everything you do matters. Love your neighbor. What you put out, you get back. You absolutely have to be meticulously responsible. So we're not letting you off the hook there. But we are saying that your love of yourself, your ability to love yourself, should never, ever, ever hinge on any of those things, no matter what you have done, no matter who you are, no matter what opportunities you have missed or who you have hurt. Nothing should impact your ability to love yourself. And when, I'll speak as Robin, when I was at the pit of hell and I was on the streets with voices screaming through my mouth, 90 pounds, certain that I was going to be framed and arrested and slandered for the rest of my existence and then die and go to hell. I mean, it was as bad as it could possibly be, and everyone had the wrong idea about me, and everyone would forever. That was the kind of things that I was being told in hell. And I looked horrible, and people would cross the street to avoid me or run towards me to beat the crap out of me. That was the state. And the only reason I was able to get out of that and recover was that no matter what the perception of me was, and no matter what I even had to confront within myself that I had done or had failed to do, I just fucking loved myself. It just for no reason. For no reason. And I was at the bottom. I had lost and talk about ego death, any sense that I was smart or beautiful or worthy or was good to anybody or for anybody. Everything I had done was inverted. All of the things that I had thought were good were twisted and thrown back at me like they were the worst sins. God forsake me. Everyone in the world hated me. That was the kind of feeling. That was not the only feeling. That was the reality I was sitting in. But the saving grace was just this, I'm all I've got. And even if I'm the worst, even if God himself is saying, Robin, you're the worst human that's ever lived. And that happened too, because hell is not just an accurate inventory. It's a torture chamber. They're going to see how far they can push you. And I still just said, because you can't escape your own consciousness. You can't escape your own observer. And I just love her for no reason. So the number one affirmation I might say to be as simple as possible is, and you might even bring in a little bit of a monster mentality with you if you need to. You might want to approach it this way, is to say, I need no reason to love myself. And you might even start, if you want to be aggressive about it, loving yourself in spite of. Say, damn it. I'm just going to go ahead and be the baddest bitch in the world, and I'm going to love myself even though I am the worst. The worst. So, I need no reason to love myself would be an affirmation that we would offer. Because we're not going to give you affirmations that say, I'm wonderful, I'm this, because that's conditional. So it's not about you being great and you being worthy. It's you are the whole of everything, and you are the only thing you will ever truly know and ever truly be with at your core. And so you'd better just do it. You'd better just start loving yourself unconditionally, because the fate of the universe rests on that solely. More important than anything else is that. So there's another one. The fate of the universe rests on me simply deciding to love myself. And if you think you're not worthy of love because you've done things, think about the impact. If you believe what we say about the nature of reality, if you want to believe in separation and believe at least that one person aligned with love can have a ripple effect in the mycelium of consciousness that would elevate others, then wouldn't that be a good way to counterbalance whatever bad you had done, to decide to love yourself? You do not have to be worthy to take the heroic act of loving yourself. So I can write down, now I've already forgotten, I told you I would remember and I've forgotten. I do not need a reason to love myself. How does that sound to you? How is that sitting with you, all of that?
I love that, to be honest. That's awesome.
Okay, good.
It resonates with me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I think that was the real meat of what we really wanted to offer here today. I think that moment, that what was expressed there, and this is why we so appreciate when people tell us what they're struggling with and we have the opportunity to respond, because that's when the magic gets going. It's an act of heroicism. It is. And I think sometimes if you want to play games with yourself, you don't have to be so fucking enlightened about it. You know, it's not like I forgive everyone. I am in a state of joy and bliss. And it's like, if you need to use spite to get to the self-love, that's fine. Like, we are not here to invalidate negative emotions. Not by a landslide, because remember, the whole thing is you. And if you're loving the whole thing, you're loving the negative stuff too. And again, going to my experience, and I'm happy to go into it in more detail if anyone has questions. Hold on. But that was probably, I think, going to the Buddhist Bardo, what I was experiencing was a living Bardo experience, and a living hell experience, and a living heaven experience. And it's like one of the great tests that occurs with your own consciousness. Are you going to break under pressure and lose your own solidarity with yourself? Are you going to break? Like, that's what breaking would be. And that's what they were trying to do, these myriad voices in my head at the time, who were all, the way it manifests was they were like the elites of the world, all the really powerful people. And then you've got gods, and you've got everyone in your ear. And at that moment, they all just fucking hate you. And they're like, everything is going to be twisted. So you've done bad things, and all the good things you've done are going to be painted as bad, and everyone has misinterpreted them. And here's the thing too, going to the world, when you're in that state, on the streets, in psychosis, you see the worst in humanity too. Like, and I've already seen quite a lot of bad in humanity, but I had rose-colored glasses on. In this period, I was able to see that woman who smiles at the corner store when I walk in on a good day, will bring out the shotgun when I look like I need help. and I look like I'm not doing well. And it was like, wow, humans are capable of horrendous things, not just at the hands of the people that were tormenting me or the demons or whatever you want to call it, but recognizing real people on the street. It's a different world when you step out of the privilege of like mental health and whatnot. And so it was keeping the self-love and then somehow also not slipping into a hatred for humanity. And trust me, I flirted with it pretty hard, harder than I ever flirted with hating myself. I'll admit that. And again, it's the paradox. It's like everything else is conditional. Whether or not I talk to you, like I just booted Max, I could just because I didn't like the way it made me feel. And that's how conditional. I am extremely conditional with everything but my love, really. I'm very conditional with who gets to talk to me. I'm very conditional with oh my God, like, I mean, I guard myself like crazy. I like to feel good. I don't like to put up with bullshit. I don't even like to get to put up with mild discomfort. I've been through too much. Like, no. So recognizing the difference between the conditions we put and it's almost like, here's the crazy thing. The more you open yourself up in self-love and in love, unconditional love of everyone else, the more you actually become ruthless with all of your other conditions, because you recognize the best way. It's kind of like, enabling versus boundaries. You recognize that sometimes, often, always the best way to love someone is to be ruthless with them. Not in being mean, but just being honest, being honest and saying, nope, you go over there. I'm not dealing with that. I don't like that, and striking the same balance with yourself. You're loving yourself so unconditionally and accepting, and this is where it all gets kind of paradoxical, and you're accepting everything you've ever done wrong, and you're forgiving yourself for it, hopefully also taking responsibility, making amends, and feeling it in your bones. Oh, here's another thing. We end up talking in a lot of my spaces about AA. It just comes up, but I went through that program for a year as well and did the steps and all of that a long time ago. And that process of self-inventory is one of the best palate cleansers for being able to approach self-love, because what you do is you take an inventory of your resentments, your fears, and from that inventory, you then you let them go, and then you extract, what did I do wrong? And all of your guilts and every damn thing, everything you ever stole, every lie you ever told, everybody whose reputation you hurt because of that lie, everyone you disrespected, everyone that you take an honest inventory of it, and then you make amends where you can. You make it better, and then you forgive yourself, and then you close the book and you move on. And I cannot tell you what a beautiful palate cleanse that is. It just clears the air. And so it's like you're allowing yourself, because I think what happens and what makes it so hard to love ourselves too is when we feel like shame. We feel ashamed of our past, of all the things that we've done, or even when we've made an ass of ourselves and when we look stupid, or when we did this or when we did that, and we carry it with us like this horrible catalog of failure. And to be able to face it all, to sit down head on and be like, this is the thing that hurts me. This is the thing I did. And I'm going to take responsibility for it and clean up my side of the street and forgive myself, sleep easy, and wake up a little lighter and able to love myself moving forward. And part of why we're saying that is that it's like forgiving yourself for everything you've done, but you don't want to let yourself off the hook in the sense that you've got to recognize that it was wrong. You've got to make it right. So you're not convincing yourself that it's all okay. That's the paradox. It is bad, but you still damn love yourself. You still have love. And in that, it's going to get better and better and better. And here's the thing, the root of most of the harms that we do come from a lack of self-love, right? But I highly recommend the 12 steps. It doesn't matter if you drink. They're so good. But I'll pause there if anyone wants to jump in. Hi, Unprecedented. And AK Ultra, I haven't met you. Go ahead, Luke. Oh. He unmuted himself and then dropped away. Unprecedented, if you want to grab a mic, you're welcome to. Bigfoot, you're the only one with a mic.
Hey, yeah, it's, you talk about, sort of like having love for yourself and the unconditional love and getting into that love. I don't know. Maybe I have like a blocked heart chakra or something. It's hard for me to get into that. But it makes sense because you hear about NDEs and people die and they have this life review and then they get sort of like fooled into coming back down here and being reincarnated.
Yeah.
It seems like if you were able to completely love yourself and love everybody else, and that they wouldn't really have anything for you to
That's it.
come back for.
That's exactly it. And that you said it more simply because we were going on about the bardo, but that's exactly what we were talking about. And I'll share that I had a near-death experience. I had the life review. I didn't go right through the death into the reincarnational. I ended up doing like a waking death. I came back and I've been doing the afterlife. But that's exactly it. You love yourself. You've got to, there's two things there though. You've got to love yourself and you've got to not get tricked there. You also have to recognize that everything is you. Because if you don't recognize that everything is you, even if you love yourself, because the trick is that you've done all this harm, and these souls are walking around impacted by that harm, you've got to go finish your contracts. You've got to make it better. So they convince you to come back so that you've got to, make it better. Although we'll say okay, this is Robin talking and kind of speculating about that reincarnation trap, but I will say the Erathian perspective on that is a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more mature. So I'm actually going to shift up into that perspective instead of my own interpretation from my experience and see what they have to say about it, because I think there's a bit more to it. I think it's better if I'm doing the talking now just because of who's in the room. That's what they're saying. So I'm gonna sort of speak as Robin and translate a little bit and see if we can do this here. I think that what happens is it's your dream, it's your consciousness. You're gonna pretty much have to keep coming into a physical experience until you can fully recognize the dream nature of the whole thing, the self as other nature of the whole thing. And until you're centered in love and you're a responsible creator and you know it's a dream and you have full control over the dream, then you don't need the physical reality anymore. That's it. So it's pretty much what you're saying. Yeah. Just with the addition that you know that it's you. And you know that even the ones trying to get you to come back in are you. And you're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. And we know you're not saying that, but some people who study Gnosticism or the videos we watch on it, it's like, just don't go to the light. Just tell them, like, I'm not going back to reincarnate. It doesn't really work like that because it's physics. And so the physics of it has everything to do with your recognition versus your lack of recognition. And until you recognize the whole thing and take the helm of the whole thing, you're going to keep getting drawn into it. Hi, Timothy. Hi, what is your name here? Unacceptable, the new Lore Lee. Anyways, hi, Precedented. You grabbed a mic if you want to say hi.
Hi, Aora. What is love?
What is love? Well, we've been doing that. Oh, we've been defining that for about an hour and 20 minutes now. Well, let's see. Bigfoot, you've got a mic. Do you want to summarize what you think coming away from this conversation so far is love as we're talking about it? That would be an interesting thing to do.
We all have our own definition of love, right? That's why I asked the question. I think it's one that's very difficult to answer. We all experience it, or we kind of think we do, but whether we're talking about the same thing or not, it's always implicitly assumed, rightly or wrongly.
Well, so that's why we say we've been defining it. We've been talking about its nature and the nature that we're offering on it in this space. So we'll continue to talk on it, and I think you'll get a sense as you listen. But what I can say, being redundant here, and there's new people in the space anyways, let's try to go through it again. We are talking about the intrinsic, unconditional, starting with the self, state of resonance, that is total acceptance. It's a total state of acceptance, I think, would be the best way to define the love that we're speaking of. So it has nothing to do with any state of arousal or hierarchical. This thing is, I love this thing. It lifts me up. It makes me feel this. No. It's a state
Good.
of
What about
resting acceptance.
what love isn't? I think that may be a better way to approach it, right? What isn't love?
Well, why don't you? I mean, we can do that, but unprecedented. I'd invite you to sort of feel into what we're doing here and get to know what we're offering here. You know.
Sure.
But sure. But if you want to flirt with it, I mean, as we were saying, love is not a hierarchical. It is not clinging. It is not desirous. It is not because you are worthy, because you are good. So we'll answer that question, but we do invite, because we're on a really specific kind of wavelength. Hi, Steve. All right, go ahead, Bigfoot.
As far as like what love is, like how would that tie into like the concept of chi and ether
Yeah.
and even like maybe two-dimensionality? I think I've even heard that discussed before. And like just sort of like maybe gathering that inside of yourself, maybe through meditation or some other means,
Well, you took
and just
Go ahead.
oh, kind of like it's like if I like meditate or try to really concentrate or something, it's like I feel lighter, happier. People don't bother me as much, and I'm nicer to other people. So it's like maybe love has like sort of, I don't know, intensified inside of me
Yeah.
a little bit. But I don't know. I was just wondering maybe how you see it tying into
Yeah.
those concepts.
Beautifully, Bigfoot, because you took the words out of my mouth and you brought me back to what I was going to offer earlier, which is meditation. And so it's funny because unprecedented, similar to Max, is coming in for the definitions. And we want to circle back again to that the thing is so undefinable and so elusive to speak about. And so the procedure to get there, meditation is number one, the greatest thing we could recommend, because and just as you described it, the cluttered mind is the thing that is organizing and reaching, desirous, hierarchical, that is constantly. The other thing it does, and we talk about this in room mechanics, you've got 3 sort of levels to your room, to your reality, running at the same time. But the more you focus on one of them, the more the others become blurred background sets. So you've got the physical reality around you, the people, places, and things. Then you've got the mental sphere, your thoughts, and then you've got the feeling sphere in your body and your emotions. So most people are running the thought program like fucking crazy all day. What is this? Picking it apart, running the same thoughts over and over and over again, mostly beating themselves over the head with the same thing over and over again, and looking for, I need this thing to be right. I need this person. My wife isn't behaving this way. This person is suspicious. It's just like constant. And the more you're in the mental sphere, the less you can see and perceive the physical, and the less you can feel, because you can only focus in on one of the spheres at a time. This is a long-winded way of getting into the benefits of meditation. But when you meditate, you're watching your breath, counting to 10 breaths, and then doing it again, sitting still. And when you're watching your breath, what you're doing is you're taking the thought, which is we cannot tell you, we'll speak as ARS now, we cannot tell you how dominantly you all exist in the mental sphere 99.9%. 99.9. You want to talk about love? Stop it. No. So the real trick here, get the hell out of your head. Get the hell out, because it's not only is it dominating your entire reality, but it's really bad. It's really bad at everything. You think you're doing such a good job by thinking about things and knowing things, and you're not. It's stupid. It has no intelligence compared to the heart. None. And into the feeling sphere. And when you combine the feeling sphere with the outside sphere, that's when the love hits the world, unimpeded by all the damn thoughts. We cannot tell you, meditation is the single most powerful practice you can engage in on this planet, period. Hands down. So you're watching your breath, and what you're doing is you're then taking your thoughts and you're moving the mental processes into the physical experience and the feeling experience. Just watching the air come in, watching the air go out. Now you're in the body. I cannot tell you, if you really do this right, how good it feels to finally feel. There's no mental process that's going to get you to love. Getting out of your head, the ecstasy of air coming in through your mouth, the gratitude that you're suddenly going to feel for the fact that air keeps coming into your nose over and over and over again. You're focusing on the thing that you can't live without. You want love? You want to love yourself? Love the fact that your body just keeps pulling in oxygen. But don't think about it. Just feel it. So every time a thought arises, every time you think something like that, I'm feeling love. Let that thought go. Back to the breath. Do that 20 minutes a day, or 20 minutes twice a day, every day. And you're not going to have to ask us, what is love? It is Bigfoot, thank you for bringing it up, because we meant to get there. We feel slightly off kilter in our space today. So we appreciate you for continuously saying the right things, being a catalyst for the right things to put us on the right track. There's nothing we can recommend more than meditation for accessing love. And we'll pair love with, because we've been asked, we'll pair it with the word acceptance. Love is acceptance. So when I was in hell, I am the worst. Everything is bad. I accept that. And this goes, so when we talk about the nature of reality, your room is always doing one of two things, expanding or contracting, meaning you're either reacting to the room like it's something that's not you and you're pushing up against it. And the more you push, the tighter it coils around you. Okay? Like, that guy is so bad, I hate him, or she's so stupid, I hate her. Well, that's pushing in a feedback loop back on you over and over and over again. Then she hates you, or something else reflects that hate back to you, and hate, and there you go. Or confusion, and there you go. You keep reacting to it, and it coils in tighter and tighter and tighter, and then the whole thing looks like such a mess because you're making the mess. So, to expand it, you let go. You stop going, this is so horrible, how did I let this happen? Why did he do this? Why did she do this? Why do they do this? This is so bad. Stop it. Just stop it for a while. And just accept everything is exactly as it is. Not because it's okay, not because it's good. We're not telling you it's all perfect, it's all divine order. We're not telling you to believe it's all good. We're just telling you that the first way to start to actually change it is to sit in a state of acceptance. And you can access that state of acceptance and love through that meditation where you are calming your autonomic nervous system down, lowering your cortisol levels. You're going to stop torturing yourself with your thinking on constant loops. Think you're so smart. Your brain is so dumb. Your resonant feelings are so intelligent. Which is why, again, in my space, the way I determine who I talk to is not, there's nothing I don't want to intellectually explain it. I don't feel good. Period. I don't need to let it go through my thought processes to know what feels good and what doesn't. And thank God I'm somebody attuned enough to myself to have spidey senses about what is discordant and what is harmonious, you know? And then accepting and acting on that discordance. So you're not accepting everything, bringing it into your room, but you're accepting that it is what it is and then putting it in its place accordingly. Do you still meditate, Bigfoot?
I do. Not quite as much recently as I had, but I I seem to be able to drop into it pretty quick and kind of pick up where I left off sometimes, uh, yeah, turning it down, turning off the mind, like you're saying, uh, that's pretty important. Just breathing and watching the breath, like you're saying, that's the yeah. I mean, it's kind of the more you do it. I mean, you obviously meditate, so but
We'll still keep talking. I
yeah,
mean, it's
just
good for everyone.
but yeah, just actually, I started meditating in front of a mirror, which I really like to do.
Like looking at
Uh,
yourself while you do it.
yeah, and well, I'll start out with my eyes closed, and then once I sort of get calmed down, my brain gets calmed down a little bit, my breathing starts to slow down. Then I'll open my eyes up and just kind of gaze at the mirror, and then I sort of got to where I could see energy in the mirror, like different colors, swirling energy, and that kind of like a lot of green, some blue and red and purple sometimes, and then like I noticed that like the energy follows the breath,
Mm-hmm.
and and, uh, and then that just seeing that would just calm me down more, and so it's kind of it's interesting, to actually. I don't know. I never really thought that would happen. I just heard somewhere that you could meditate in a mirror, and I was like,
Hmm.
that sounds kind of cool. But and then at first, kind of looking in the mirror kind of freaked me out a little bit at first, and um, I don't know. I even had like some scary experience with it, and some other cool experiences with it too. I saw a being appear behind me one time and just kind of hug me. Um, and it was a very warm feeling, like just this sort of like just soft, warm light, and uh, and I felt like something was there beside me, and I kind of looked into the mirror, and it was kind of, I think, pretty sure it was like this, looked like some kind of female, like from ancient times or something, and that only happened once. Um, but yeah, sometimes you just get a very peaceful feeling, and the light just sort of softens, and maybe it's not even really energy colors. It's just like a very soft, warm kind of light, and
That's so cool.
it, you know. But yeah, yeah, I love to. I don't really. I'm kind of in a weird situation right now where I don't have access to my mirror right now. But I did meditate a couple days ago, and I felt like energy just hit me like from the right, like I could just feel like it's from out of nowhere. But I don't know. I should probably do it more, honestly.
Well, the warning that I'll put on meditation as well, it's the biggest recommendation and your greatest tool. It's also a slippery slope into the whole damn awakening process, which can be destroy your life from the inside out and the outside in. So it has its dangers, but it's still a wonderful thing. The mirror thing, we can talk about what that is. It's because the whole thing is you, but the physical reality is so consensus. Like, you've so been trained that a stop sign is a stop sign and a chair is a chair, and there's no beings walking around in your house. Unless you're in a Victorian haunted house that everyone tells you is haunted, then you're going to be able more maybe to see a ghost, because it's you. Like, the ghost is you, the energy is you, the being is you, but no less real than your neighbor, who is also you. So we're not saying it's not real, but we're saying nothing's real. But you can see things in the mirror because the mirror is a bit more flexible. The mirror has a mythology to it, has an otherworldliness to it that allows you to see things that you wouldn't feel comfortable manifesting into your much more solidly agreed upon consensus reality. And then the more you meditate, the more you're able to have those kinds of experiences. And for me, so 2020 is when I started meditating, and then my experience became so profoundly otherworldly and so profoundly synchronistic that, I said stop sign is a stop sign. Well, not for me. Not for me. A stop sign, if I really needed it to at the time, especially right when I was just coming out of my near-death experience, a stop sign could very well say, drink more water, Robin. Like, maybe not Robin, although I did have, a truck pass by as I was doubting. People keep mistrusting me or twisting my words. And I was like, how am I ever going to make a difference in the world if everyone keeps, nobody trusts me, and I'm just constantly misinterpreted. And then this truck goes by and I'm in the middle of nowhere. And it says, Richardson, trusted since 1985. That's my name, on a truck. And that became just the nature of reality, because, and that's where I was in a synchronicity space briefly yesterday. The phenomenon of synchronicity is really just the phenomenon of you being more lucid with your dream. So more of what's inside your head is evident in also the outside, because you're recognizing more and more that the two are the same. So the more you meditate, the more that kind of phenomenon can occur. What nobody told me, and I didn't have any teacher or guru or guide, like I didn't know what I was getting into when I started meditating. Nobody told me that I would go to hell. I had I tuned into Abraham Hicks and all them in the beginning. It was Abraham Hicks and Archangel Michael channeled messages, and it was like, feel bliss, cling to the light, be in love, and everything's gonna be great. And that was a total setup. That was a total setup. So I am a huge advocate of understanding and being prepared for the onset of the darkness, of your own shadow to come in. And so that's one caveat I give Bigfoot if you're already having these visions and experiences, to be really careful and really aware that in the meditative state, you're moving more towards bardo consciousness, astral consciousness, where sometimes the figures in the mind can become autonomous, can become voices, can become beings, can even tamper with your physical reality as well. So that's the caveat. I don't think it should stop you, but I want you to be aware because no one made me aware of that stuff.
Yeah, like I've I've had negative beings show up before, um, and you know, sometimes knocking, like 3 knocks. I hear that. I used to hear that a lot.
You hear
Not
it like it's outside,
like
like at the door,
like not at the door, but like just some almost like in like not really on anything.
but not in
Like
your. Is it? What I mean is, like, does it sound like it's in your head or outside in the environment?
uh outside in the environment, but
Right,
not on anything in particular.
right.
And and one time this like thing had like a horns on its head and like a large muscular male body, and it just charged at me like right out of my closet. And
Were you smoking pot or anything at the time?
no, no, I'm very sober. I've been very sober for decades. And
Mm.
but anyway, I- like trying, I like this light. There's this light. I call it like divine light, and it's something like that. That happened, and like it just showed up automatically without me even trying to do anything. Like it was just there
Mm-hmm.
protecting me. And as soon as that light showed up, that being just disappeared. And I wasn't even that afraid. I just kind
Yeah.
of, and like I'm talking in like waking reality.
Yeah. Good. I mean, you talked about the after death, and I keep saying the bardo. Do you know much about the Buddhist concept of the bardo?
I've heard it and read about it before.
Yeah. It sounds like you're really preparing for it, and it's like you've got the light in the dark, and it's the recognition this isn't real. Like, it's me. And so I'm not scared of it, and to maintain your center in the center of it. The acceptance without letting it in necessarily, but if it comes in, that's okay. It is what it is. And that acceptance of the light without attachment. It's good preparation, these things, if you can, I think it sounds like you're in a really good place with it, to be honest.
Well, thank you. Yeah, like I used to have nightmares too, but just sort of like facing the fears, and I just got to where just if something was trying to scare me, I would just face it,
Mm-hmm.
stand up, face it, look at it, move toward it, and just keep doing that. And like even like from the mirror, like this guy, like it just felt like shattered glass. He like made my soul feel like shattered glass. Like it was like me looking at like the worst version of me or something.
Right.
And and you're like talking about bosses and levels and
I was
stuff,
just going to say that's a big boss.
yeah. But the light, the divine light, that's, and that is,
Yeah.
that's something yeah, it's not just a term.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's, and everybody has it, whether they know it or not. Every single person has it. And, and yeah, it can just show up and, just disintegrate anything uh, so far I've ever experienced. Yeah. Even like being drawn into like a wall of skulls, like in a basement, this creepy basement up in Virginia. Like I was just like floating towards it, and Actually, the light showed up in my dog, and my dog had the light inside of it,
Hmm.
and pulled me back, like bit my hand and pulled me back away from it, and then it disappeared. And like I think there's like they talk about like I forget which whatever it is, but like the dogs, like if something attacks you, like yeah, I guess in that other dimension, or they'll try to like get your dog to go away because your
Right.
dog will protect you.
Right.
And you've probably heard that before, but yeah.
Interesting. I love that you have the light. That brings up two things. The Bardo, they talk about that. The advanced Buddhist practitioner the idea is to recognize all the vengeful, wrathful demons, deities of the Bardo as self, which I certainly failed to do epically. And then to recognize the divine light and dissolve into it. That's what they do. I advocate, I don't know, I advocate for, and this is what the Bodhisattva, so the Buddha will dissolve into the divine light, recognize it, and let go of all of the illusions. And the Bodhisattva will choose to go back and sort it all out for every other self that is enmeshed in it. So those are sort of the two paths once you recognize. But the trick is that, so you're recognizing the astral beings, the mental projections as such, and contending with them. But also then to go deeper, if you really want to get prepared for the Bardo, and also, sorting out this life as best you can, and hopefully not coming back. The practice of recognizing this life, it's like if you were trying to lucid dream, one of the best things you can do to lucid dream is to keep asking yourself while you're awake if you're dreaming. And so it's sort of similar to that, because then you get used to asking yourself the question. So one way to recognize in the Bardo that it's all you is to recognize right now that it's all you. Well, this is my dream. And you'll start to see how much it is. That's the fun thing. As you play with this as a belief system, the more you move around your reality, the more you'll start to see, oh my gosh, I understand how I created that occurrence in my life. I understand how that, even the film that I'm watching right now is a reflection. I mean, in my reality, this is the funny thing, explaining this to people, I have to remember that there's a huge chasm between, to me, this is so self-evident. It's so self-evident. And that makes it a lot easier from my perspective and a lot harder to translate it to others because everyone else isn't walking around in what is so clearly a reflection. But the more you can recognize that, the easier it's going to be at the moment of death and in the afterlife to not get caught up in the illusions and then create more chaos and then reincarnate. There was something else I wanted to say. Hi, Anne. Hi, Beckett. Oh, I want to share too the light. I had a similar thing, not the same relationship to it, but when I did ayahuasca, I was traveling through all these different dimensions, and they had all the different, like, the dimensions are, they're not pure love. Like, I don't know if you've ever done it or if anyone here has, but there are lots of different really interesting resonances and personalities, and it's an infinite universe or consciousness, my own consciousness, and all kinds of different moods and feelings in all of these different places. But one constant was like, I'd be playing around in all these dimensions or sitting in them or moving through them. And then you would just see the light come around, and it would just be like almost a mother checking on you, just being like, everything good? Just remember, it's not real. you're, like, it's not, you may think you're stuck in a cellular construct of pure information with bobble-headed fluorescent keys. but here I am, the light, to remind you that you're just playing a game of dimensions, and I'm always here just being the light. That was the relationship I had to it. But it did not show up when I was in hell. When you're in hell, there's none of that. And that's a kind of another crucible of getting to know the self. Oh, there's one more thing, Bigfoot. You made me think of so much. Speaking of that synchronization, I just watched an episode of Star Trek right before I started this, and it was literally the episode where they go to a planet, and when Captain Kirk gets beamed back on the ship, he gets beamed back right after he gets beamed up. His evil clone gets beamed up, and it's like his other half, and they have to reunify in the end, or they'll both die. And without his evil half, he doesn't know how to make decisions. He's not decisive, you know? So he has to take back on his brutish, cruel, evil half, in order to function. So you made me think of that when you mentioned the mirror, and it was such a pertinent, relevant episode, because that, again, the concept of unconditional love, loving the brutish, horrible, and he's crying. He doesn't want to bring him back. He doesn't want to unify with this, horrible man who's done horrible things. But he recognizes it's an integral part of himself, just as all those bad guys in our world are integral parts simply because they are. And that, interestingly, the more we accept and embrace them without we're not literally opening our arms and being like, hey, come for dinner, but just that resonance does actually decrease the evil. It does. I'll pause there, and if Anne and Beckett want to grab a mic, or anyone's, I hope Unpresident has a better idea of what we're talking about here and our concept of love. Or Bigfoot can go ahead again. I love what you're sharing. It's so interesting. You have a very visionary, and you have a very visual experience. Mine's much more auditory.
Yeah, yeah. I've thought about that too, the auditory part. Like, my mind is very quiet. I don't know how people have so many words, but it's very visual. Yeah, it's much more visual. But yeah, like, I don't hear voices like I mean, there's been a couple times I've heard something just say my name, but
Right.
yeah.
I don't know what's scarier, the visions or the voice. I mean, because I've never seen a figure in my, I've never seen a figure, but boy, have I heard voices.
See, the voices, I think it's just me talking to me, and I wouldn't be able to distinguish if it wasn't.
Yeah, you would know if it was the voices, because they're totally different characters. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I can, yeah, just different stuff I've seen. Geez, I saw this one being, it had like these claws, and it just materialized, out in the woods, and it had been hurting me with, these barking dogs that were just like, was projecting this sound to like move me out of its territory.
Hmm.
And then it just sort of went from being invisible to like, materializing into my waking reality. And I don't know, it's like about 7 feet tall, and had like a helmet on,
Holy shit.
and but it made me focus on its claws that was materializing, because I was trying to just see what it was and not be afraid of it. And then it made me understand that those claws were razor sharp, and that could just basically just cut me in half with them. And it made me fear that was going to happen. And so I left there pretty quickly after that.
How long
And
have you been having visions like that?
just different stuff, kind of like my whole life, really, probably since high school. I would say since high school or early 20s. And if I sit out in those woods long enough, something will happen. But
Did they ever? You don't have to answer this, but I'm just, this is more of a prying question. But did they ever try to diagnose you with anything?
I never got diagnosed with anything. I did have one little strange experience. and I don't know, they brought me in because I was I guess not perfectly fitting into society for a little while, and they said I had, I don't even know what they said. I don't even think they knew what I had or what to call it, and then they just kind of let me go,
Hmm.
and I didn't take I quit taking the medication they gave me, but that was because that was really due to something else, not because of like ongoing things.
Right.
But I had sort of like had a little too much fun one night. But that night I don't know what it was that night. I'd, within having too much fun, I guess that at the peak of having too much fun, there was another mirror, and I like entered this mirror and like was like almost like magnetically drawn to this mirror, and I was like inside the mirror, like literally in it, like almost like electromagnetically. And
Mm.
I turned around and looked at everybody else in the room, at myself and everybody else, and it freaked me the hell out.
Hmm.
And then I like just kind of flew back into my body after a little while, but I was terrified I was going to get stuck there. It was like a very jarring, shocking experience.
See, you have less of a filter. Like that's how I would describe it, really. It's like because again, we all have unbounded consciousness, but a lot of us are filtered in completely into the physical matrix right now for that temperance. And you've got a little leakage in your filter, like closer to how a non-physical, but only sometimes it leaks, right? Otherwise, if we had no filter, you would just be off dreaming all the time then.
Most of the time nothing happens,
Yeah.
and I
Well, because
function
remember,
normally.
it's you. It's not like, all that stuff is you. So it's not like an external being that can really hurt you unless you believe it too much. But of course you can too. I mean, that's a danger. Like getting stuck on the other side of the mirror is a problem.
Well, the crazy thing about these dogs is ever since I was a kid, I've heard those dogs in those woods, and so has everybody else, but nobody's ever seen them.
Mm.
My dad's heard them, my friends have heard them, and it was these same dogs. And this happened maybe a year ago or so when that being materialized, and
Right.
those dogs were like in this bush, like right next to me. Like I was expecting the dogs to like attack me, or I could see them or something, because the sound was so close and just kept getting closer and closer and closer, and they were never there. And then that thing appeared. And another crazy thing about that is about a week later, I was listening to a podcast about this guy who claimed to have like CIA data dumps. And he described that exact being I saw and talked about how they recorded dogs and used them to scare people off, to get out of their territory. And um, but no, everybody's heard them, but nobody's seen those dogs. And it's not just me; it's other people. So I don't know. That's one
See,
of the
but
crazy things.
even that synchronicity of you coming across the CIA data dump information, like to me, is screaming. It's just like evidence of the simulation, so to speak, right? It's like it's not even to me a confirmation of the fact that maybe this is a real thing. It's more of a confirmation of the fact that even that podcast is a manifestation. That dump is a manifestation. It's all like your dream is so vivid. You're such a vivid dreamer, dreaming in an extra dimensional reality, really.
Yeah. I mean that. Yeah, I'm fascinated with how you see things. But yeah, the dreams are getting more weird. Yeah, and I'm doing the binaural beats, and that's kind of focusing the dreams down a little bit
Right.
sometimes too.
Right. Okay. It was you who was talking about the binaural beats. Yeah. I mean, go slow. Now that I know more about you, Go slow.
I like to rip the Band-Aid off,
I
though.
know, me too. Oh gosh, oh gosh. Well, we had some people up to the mics that I was going to say hi to, and they've dropped away. Gasp. We lost Gasp. And dropped back down to listener. What I do, guys? Beckett, welcome.
Oh, there. I had to hit the mute button. It's such an interesting conversation to listen to, because when thinking about animals and energy, I know that my animals definitely respond to my energy, and they take damage for me, sometimes literally, I think. It may be representative of quantum energy or spirit world. I don't even know. Like, I'm just sometimes drawing conclusions that may not exist, but the connections are there nonetheless. So it's like, did the energetic relationship pattern communicate specific energies, or did something else happen because of somebody else's energetic communication pattern? And how do those clash? And how does it show up in the very resonant frequencies that we share with each other through our communication patterns? So yeah, it's fascinating stuff, and I love it.
Can you unpack that a little bit more? Like, say it in a little bit more, like using examples and just letting us, do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Illustrate it a little.
So anywhere I go, I typically affect the animals around me, especially animals that are mine or that I spend a lot of time with, in a fascinating way, sometimes to me. And my friends have commented on this often. But animals are typically very drawn to me, or trusting of me, I guess. So over a lifetime of pattern matching and watching my interactions with them, and developing my relationship with myself and my relationship to truth, in combination with all those things, it really allowed me to see what the animals would do when I was exhibiting my own behaviors. So, like, yeah, hard to find like concrete examples, but
I think I know what you mean. I can play
there,
with it a little and just see. Maybe I'll talk about it, and you kind of tell me if I'm on the right track or not as I riff on it, if
well,
that works.
yeah, there are times when I'm having conversations with people and the dogs bark because I need to change what I'm saying, thinking,
Yes.
doing, being.
Right.
And it is not just dogs, though. In my experience, it's anything. It could be a plane in the sky. It could be a neighbor clashing a dish. It's something that gets brought to my awareness at a very specific frequency. It causes me to open up a gate, so to speak, and pay more attention in a specific direction that allows me to look through a lens, a perspective of that I can focus. And then I can, and it all happens in an instant. But that sound happens, that triggers a connection, and the connection incites insight. The connection brings insight, and insight, if I'm paying attention, is a chemical exchange in my body, generally speaking. And that knowledge, if I'm cognizant of what's going on in that moment, is often kind of right there at the tip of my tongue. Whether I can speak it or not is a totally different animal. But the awareness of it, whether the wind blows, whether the sun warms my face more, the sensorial experience of the human body is what is affected. The goosebumps that you get when you listen to really good music, like, those are all cues of a thing that is occurring in a communication pattern that is nonverbal, and we can occasionally call it telepathy. We can occasionally call it any other. There's any number of things that it can filter under, I guess, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Thank you so much. That helps tremendously. So yes, beautiful. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's the same as Bigfoot bringing up everything that I wanted to talk about, because that's I have the same reality. I live in the exact same reality, and talking about, and it began for me when I started meditating and stopped thinking, and I was talking about turning off the clamorous mental landscape that barely gets us anywhere and moving into the feeling attunement, and then being in the feeling and the physical reality and letting the two interact. And if we look from a room mechanic's perspective and we understand, and you would be one of these people who I was referring to, saying, if you live in this reflective reality, you understand that it's your room, that it's all in communication with you. That phenomenon, and I think, synchronicity is one good way to say it, but it's the communication between the you inside and the you outside. And there becomes this subtle underlying language. And I would love, you know what, I'll do a whole podcast episode on that, Beckett, what you've mentioned. It's perfect. That is, and I do believe it's so important to meditate to reach that state, because the thinking mind is never going to pick up on those things. And those things are never going to harmonize with the thinking mind. They're going to harmonize with the one who's in flow and the one who's receptive and the one who's who's knowing that the environment is one with the process of self and trusting the communication of that environment. So exactly that, as soon as I entered that state, the whole reality became that sunshine was always an indication. If it started to rain, there was a very specific reason. Any car honk, as you say, a dog barking, always moving you. And you know what? It makes you such a genius. This is the fun thing about that. God, Beckett, I hope other people chime in with a similar. I love that you live like that, because I do too. And it makes you look like a genius, rather, because you can be, when I was in my my psychosis or my visionary crucible, and I was up against, the most strategical genius, and, what they're doing is they're using game theory to map my movements through the city, to sort of set traps, they've got it all figured out, and they've got it all mapped out, and they're mapping human behavior and blah, blah, blah. And she's going to turn right. But guess what? A dog barked. So I'm turning left. I'm not going to go down that road that I was going to go down. That kind of thing. Or the song I was listening to, the lyrics had a really specific, and you have to be careful because sometimes people can put tricks in there. But if you're tuned to the subtle language of your room, your whole environment, and animals are such a good one. Animals and children. Animals, children, and sometimes people on drugs. because they're not thinking they're not stuck in the rigid matrix of thought. They're not going around in boxes again and again and again. They're receptive to the nudges. They're the quickest ones to respond to your own consciousness and your own so it's when I first started having those experiences, I imagined myself being loved by a God who was speaking to me through everything. Now I recognize all as me, and now I see it differently. I see it as the children and the animals and the drunk people are not so much in their heads, so they're able to more quickly be more responsive to the current that I'm sending out, and they can speak back to me. And I was saying, and Beckett, I'm curious if you have the same thing, consensus reality starts to break down too, where a street sign that might usually say, Oak Grove, if you need to hear a specific message that day, it might say something else to you specifically. Those things start to creep in. So, and it goes to Bigfoot's share about having these visions. What all of this, Beckett and Bigfoot and my shares, what all of this is pointing to is when the material filter, like the time, space, physics, materiality filter that we're in to temper our dream, is starting to loosen up a little. And the dream is starting to show through more in the reality. And at the highest expression, it's what Beckett's describing. It's subtle communication and help. And then it gets a little crazier, like what Bigfoot was sharing, when you have the entities, or for me, the descent to hell. So it's all, there's a lot behind through the looking glass, so to speak. God, I love this, I started off feeling a little off in the space, and I feel much better. Go ahead, Beckett.
It often makes me think about, I grew up with a lot of reading a lot of storytelling kind of things, like Grimm Brothers and Hans Christian Andersen, and then I read a lot of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Agatha Christie. They're all really good storytelling, and more, so many more, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of authors. And the mythos that often pops up that is like Celtic in nature, that the way they talk about the veil and the way they talk about the separation of us versus the spirit world that happened because of our kind of inability to communicate with each other is kind of not unlike the Tower of Babel, but it's still different. It's conceptually different. But like that veil has, I've always viewed it as a real thing, that we really do have these little sprites and energies around us that can help us or hurt us, and many of them are tricksters and not all of them are beneficial, but they will do beneficial things even if they're not necessarily beneficial, or they will be a torment but not necessarily intending harm either. It's a, when you're talking about things like that road sign, that's kind of what I think of, like the little pucks of the sphere of that kind of energetic exchange.
Right. Can I ask you, is your concept of reality then that there are these different dimensions and we're tapping into, like you described, that veil and dimension? Do you see, when you listen to my content, I don't know how much you heard, but the idea that it is different degrees of filtration on your own consciousness, or do you see it more as an objective external that you have access to or not?
I would almost say both, but I'd have a lot of caveats with that, which is that our only frame of reference is ourself. Right. So everything is filtered through our personal experience. Yet I say that the personal experience of others has as much weight on that blanket, and they can also pull it. Like, we are all kind of, I view it as if we are all sort of nodes. I'm borrowing language too, so not everything is going to fit all the time, but yeah, I view it as we're nodes in a system that each of us pulls at our particular corner of this quilt that we build. But with intention, we can create a different pattern on our section of the quilt, or shift it altogether, I guess. But that takes a lot of energy and focus, and I look at how biblical stories talk about time compression, because that's how I view Jesus's ability to heal or do things. It was really just time compression. I think.
You want to say more on that?
When I am very deeply focused in on this experience of interpreting my lens, when I am, and I like to sometimes view it through the conceptual physics framework of the double slit experiment, that we collapse everything around the view that we're looking through. So if I choose the view of time compression with Jesus, and that's what I'm looking at, his ability to create an energetic exchange, I think, boiled down to his ability to perceive time. So that it's not necessarily in the moment that the prayer was requested, but it's in the moment that the prayer was received and gifted. So, like, my concept of time is in my head. I only exist in the now. So the now is the only thing that's truly real. And I can sense that with the experience of my body and the chemical exchange of the salts and the heart and all that. I can visit the past and the future in my brain and pull information out of it to bring to the now, which I consider time compression.
Got
Because
it. Keep going. But
it's, yeah, because it's so, you know, I verbalized that I am pulling information from the past and the present, right? But what does that mean? It means I am projecting forward in my brain, looking at the landscape, saying, yeah, these are the things I'm going to pull out with me and come back to the present moment to talk about it. Or I'm going to project back into the past to pull out, you know, reasonings or memories or little ghosts of ideas, bring it back to the present moment, mingle it with some future stuff, and then come up with a concept, right? Most people wouldn't necessarily consider that time travel or time compression, but if you can do it at a larger scale, then maybe it is.
Well, you could also theorize, because that's sort of becoming, just to put a really simple framework on it, becoming fourth dimensional. You could also then go to fifth dimensional for Jesus and say, not just going time compression, as you say, but timeline selection, right? I select the timeline, or I select of all the infinite, infinite coexisting, let's say, going from the collapsed particle back to the wave function, and then recollapsing it at a version where the blind is no longer blind, choosing that reality.
Right. Like, the mandala effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've
A/B
just,
testing of society, in a sense.
it's handy. I have in my YouTube, recommended video section, and there's this channel that I've been enjoying that does wonderful illustrations of different, like, what would the fourth dimensional being see? What would the fifth dimensional being see? And so handily, they just broke it down in that way, where the fourth dimension can see your whole timeline, and the fifth dimension can see all of your timelines. So I think that, yeah, having an increasingly dimensional consciousness allows you to be increasingly non-local, and then increasingly affects the reality that you're experiencing now, and shift it around pretty easily, or you're shifting yourself. It depends what framework you're looking through. You know, Bashar would teach, you know, you're moving through the multiverse, you're constantly jumping up and down in all these different realities. I see it more as, again, you're just adjusting your resonance to infinite probabilities within your own dream, within your own room, more or less. But they all fit, I think, you know. They can all be workable. It's like, what framework do you want to choose to work with?
I love the probabilities part. Like, I operate primarily on intuition and probabilities.
Right.
There's an energetic exchange that happens when I know I'm doing something I'm supposed to, and an energetic exchange that happens when I know I'm doing something I shouldn't be. And the only reason I know it's something I'm supposed to or shouldn't is my own internal clock.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know that is because I spent time trying to translate it to myself. Right? Like, so the more anybody can do that, I think the more capacity they would also have.
Well, attuning to the feeling self, and we were talking about meditation earlier, and we started this whole thing on unconditional love, and the question kept coming up, what is the definition of love, right? We had to keep circling back to, it's not something we're going to define. It's something that we can guide you to feel. I mean, talking about what is unconditionality, we can accomplish, but the love is you just gotta feel it. You just, that's it. That's the end of it. And it starts with doing that work of being able to attune to yourself and know what feels resonant and good and accepting and all encompassing, and what feels discordant and not right. You know, we could just simplify it to right and not right, but it's like, when you can attune and I don't think you were here when we were talking about meditate, but meditation as being the number one way to get there, to feel yourself, and then use that feeling as the barometer for, am I going in the right direction or the wrong direction? And right and wrong, not in some, grandiose, external judgment way, but in the sense of, is it in accordance with myself or not? And the only thing that can tell you that is how you're feeling about it. But of course, you've got to learn that and attune to it, because one that many people can mistake, there are lots of feelings. It's like, and again, I think back to Bashar's teachings, that channel. He says, follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability. Well, how many people's highest excitement is to just shoot heroin until they die? You have to be very careful about, how people are interpreting their own attunement to what feels right and what doesn't. But once you're there, and I think you and I, Beckett, have a similar experience of reality, a similar like feeling response to it. It becomes such a good guidance system, and you don't need to know intellectually why you're not going to do this thing. You're just not going to do it because you just know. You just know that it's unaligned, and if you don't feel it enough, and you're still trying to self-negate, and I talk about this all the time, the self-negation is one of the most detrimental things you can do, which is to say, okay, let's say I don't feel comfortable in this room with this person. They're belittling, and in order to do business with them, I need to allow myself to be belittled, or to at least be in a room with someone who's like that. And it doesn't feel right in my heart of hearts. But here's a contract for $5 million and an opportunity to do something really good in the world. So that's when the question of, to me, it's not a question. That's when going with the heart becomes, and like, to me, honoring that heart above all reason, honoring the feeling, the knowing, this doesn't feel right. And it doesn't matter how many, you can be in a room full of 100 intelligent people telling you this is the smartest move you could ever make in your life, but and that's when you're really at the helm. That's when you're really in the central control panel of your reality. And that's when the magic happens. Even if the magic is you're homeless for 5 years instead of a millionaire, you're still in the right place, in my opinion. Strongly opinion. Very strongly. Oh, and I was going to say one more thing to that probabilities and multiverse thing. If you take the multiverse perspective, it's another fun exercise in how to beat the no-win game. If you're in a situation, or you're faced with something, or you have a problem, like we've talked about, can you just change the world? Can you, well, look at it this way. It's an infinite multiverse where all probabilities coexist, including the one where, you beat the no-win, including the one where you do make a difference. That exists. And then the way to get there is through alignment. That's what manifestation is. It's attuning, recognizing the frequency, the very, very nuanced frequency of that one reality in the multiverse. So now we're getting another higher dimension. So we've got the time, and we've got the multiple timelines, and now we're learning how to identify, I guess that is in that fifth dimensional, but identify the desired timeline, and then attune to it until it is the one that you are living in, until it is the one that you have shifted to in Bashar's view, and I would say that you are creating in my view. So it's all resonance. If you can learn how to feel, and again, that's why I say the genius. The people who use their brains think that they're so smart. People who know how to feel are genius. And because they can tune into guidance that nobody, and this is what I mean about this, like, let's say you're playing a game with the most intelligent gamer in the world, and he's got all the strategies, but you zig when a bird chirps. No one can see that coming. No one can see that coming, but the bird knows. And you don't have to do all that work. You just have to fucking listen. Genius. And it's so perplexing. And this is really, I always see this forking path right now in the world. And there's one that is so masculine and so intellectual and mechanical. And we're moving towards the technocratic and the oligarchic and the centralized. And then there's a loosening up and a moving towards the intuitive, the receptive. And I'm not saying we're not battling. I'm not trying to say it's the left versus the right, but these two polarities are existing strongly right now. I do think ultimately it's about a reconciliation. So I always talk about, I don't think it's the whole game is about depolarization, not defeating the other side. You know, it's integration. So recognizing that there's a left to my right, there's a bad to my good, there's a man to my woman, there's there's an angry to my happy, and maybe it exists inside of me, maybe it exists as someone standing in front of me, maybe it exists as a voice in my head, maybe it exists as the president, but I accept it as me, I accept it as reality. And the more I accept it and the more I recognize that I work in harmony with it, so it may resist my feeling intelligence, my feeling intelligence versus its pure calculated intelligence. But I'm going to do something surprising here. I'm not going to reject his calculated intelligence. I'm going to integrate it. He can reject, he can choose not to use intuition, not to attune, not to feel, not to be in love, but I'm going to choose to learn systems thinking. I'm going to choose to learn strategy. I'm going to choose to embrace the masculine. And here's the fun, let me take some water here. Here's something really fun that happens then, is that the depolarization is then inevitable, meaning the more that I am embracing these things, the more I actually initiate and ignite a similar movement towards me. As I move towards him, my opposite, he moves towards me. He can't not. Because think of it even in terms of a relationship. If you've got a really feminine woman and a really masculine man and they're always butting heads because they're so different, and, let's say he's saying, well, you're always such a martyr and you're always a pushover and it's pissing me off, and then you're passive aggressive, and she's saying, well, you're such a bully and you're pushing me around. Well, the moment that they stop, and this is what I say about, are you reacting to your reality or are you constructively responding? If they're reacting, they're constantly going to butt heads until it all implodes. And then they go find other lovers that reflect the same thing. But if she decides, hold on. now back that I can wonder, is my dry throat a sign to shut up? Maybe. She decides. One moment, Richard, and I'll call on you when I'm done here. She decides, I'm actually going to stand up for myself a bit more. I'm going to be more outspoken. I'm not going to be passive aggressive. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to say what I want, blah, blah, blah. By very virtue of her changing her behavior, he's going to change his behavior. That's where, again, it's all reflective. If you want to see it as metaphysically reflective or just sort of understand that as interconnectedness. Go ahead, Richard. I don't think we've met, so I don't know what to expect.
Oh, all right. I've seen you in a couple spaces, and thought I'd stop in and listen to what you had to say. And it sounds like you're right on point.
Oh, welcome. Yeah, I think you caught a good microcosm of what we've been talking about here. I think Justice and Bigfoot have been here the whole time, but the topic being the idea of unconditional love and reality as your waking dream, and exploring that from a few different angles. So you're welcome to chime in with any insights or questions, or anyone else can grab a mic too. It's been good. My throat is closing up though. I don't know what. Is it Robin shut up time?
Do you want me to do popcorn or raise my hand?
Well, you're welcome now. We generally raise our hands, but I've invited you, so go ahead.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we all have a yin and a yang, and finding that yang to our yin helps bring out the strength within to be one and strengthen observance and observation and fulfilling goals that can't be made without both.
Yeah. Well, and I was saying to Bigfoot, this is such a theme because Bigfoot was describing facing his evil self in a. My throat is completely closing up. Interesting. Oh, well, one moment. And I was saying that I had just watched a Star Trek episode, the one where Captain Kirk has an evil clone running amok, and it's his bad half, and they have to reunify in the end in order to solve the problem. And I had a 9-month psychic battle with a manifestation in my own mind of the most powerful man in the world. And the only way to reconcile the battle was to find equilibrium and peace with him, which was so hard. And I still live with that thing. So, Jung talks about the integration of the animus. Sometimes if the animus is so extreme, the animus being the masculine part of the woman, the yang to the yin, they'll manifest as a human. I saw you were requesting a mic. If you still want it, they can manifest as an autonomous being in psychosis to confront you. It's like sometimes you have to manifest it, and especially if the odds of meeting that person who's a good opposite are so slim because they're such a big figure. So I think a lot of famous people act as those oppositions, those catalysts, those archetypes. Go ahead, Human.
Well, I didn't have much to add yet. I'm just doing something really quick. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, let me know when you do. I don't know if we've met, so it's nice to have you up. I don't know, also... Oh, I think I know Yaz. I've seen Yaz around, but with different profile picture. Who else do we have? AK Ultra's been here. Elijah is cleverly hidden with an all-black avatar. And Oh Souls, I don't think we've met either. Beckett, go ahead. Please.
You said something about celebrities having to take on that identity, and I think you're very right, because I think that we as a populace tend to live vicariously through celebrities because we don't have the ability to manage our own energies. We don't have the ability to manage our own emotional drive, or lack of ability to face our emotional drive. Because I think we get caught up in the ego game, and then because the ego has made life look different than we want it to, we then are trapped. Like you can't transcend if you're constantly focused on what you don't have, right? So in order to deal with the heavy emotions of living with that desire to want things all the time, you end up living vicariously through others because you can't express that energy in your actual real world.
Yeah, well, this is really interesting. So not only have I heard it said, and I believe it, that celebrities, and going back to my framework of this as all our consciousness, there's so much I can say on this. The celebrities are we're not just focusing on them because of that stuff. I would go a step further and say we created them. I think the more famous someone is, the more that can indicate to you the state of the collective consciousness or unconsciousness, because it's that many people that are focusing that person into fame. That many eyes are on them because they're representative of the repressed aspects of all those people.
It creates an entropic whole. It creates a chaos engine, essentially, because that kind of magnetism of power ends up drawing a lot to it. And when you're drawing a lot of people to it that don't have the capacity to manage their own physical experience through their own emotional grounded state, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right that we created it because it just fed this idea that we're supposed to want what these people have. So we have to create what these people have and make it bigger and grander and more grandiose every time. You know, and so then you create the very dichotomy that's keeping you separated.
Yes, yes. But it's also, it's to say, just to go into it a little bit more, it's like they're taking on the qualities that, so a good example, well, we can use Marilyn Monroe and Elon Musk as like the ultimate animus projections of the collective. So it's not, so it's like, let's say the repressed feminine aspects in the 1950s of everybody. So like to your point, that they're not achieving their own success, but it's deeper than that. It's their own feminine qualities. It's their innocence, their sensuality, their physicality, their playfulness. They externalize it onto her, and the more they do, the more she takes it on. It becomes, like you said, an engine, but it's a feedback loop, and she becomes more and more and more the manifestation of those projections. And the more she takes it on, the more people actually, now they've, and this is actually, God, this is intrinsic. Human, I'll call on you in a second. This is so intrinsic to everything that I want everyone to understand here. This is a really good example of how the unconscious mind, so your consciousness, the unconscious aspects of yourself get projected out into the physical reality, and then that makes you believe, oh, I have that thing in my reality. It is in your reality, but it's not in you. You're not owning it. You're externalizing it. It's scapegoating too. That evil person is so bad. You're putting all of the negative projections onto them. And one more thing, I hear you at the mic, but just one more thing before I hand it off. In my near-death experience, I saw that so clearly. Like you see your whole life. One of the things I saw was how totally and utterly I had invented every friggin' movie, every celebrity. Like I had completely made them up. It's crazy. When you die, everyone takes off their mask and you realize that you cast and directed every fucking movie. And you made it to show yourself all of your alternative possibilities, all of your repressed aspects, all of the things maybe you were doing wrong or right or whatever. But go ahead, Beckett, and then Human had their hand up.
I'll go back to the concept of the animus, animus and Marilyn Monroe, right? Because as it got shifted to her and to women like her in that film industry, it was removed from a lot of the society at large.
Exactly.
So women in society weren't free, but she was. So it wasn't just the negative attention, it was all the femininity of her, right?
Yeah.
So we've done the same thing now in different ways, whereas the people that are at the top are together. They got their shit, it's like this, everybody's got their shit together. They've got their finance, everything is boxed off and pretty, but there's still this whole underlying network that's not even being utilized. Like, I don't know if
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about the scapegoating or the projection. You don't own it anymore. You've outsourced it. I've outsourced the power to Elon Musk, and I've outsourced the sensuality to Marilyn Monroe. Instead of owning it, and then we become victimized by them.
And on top of that, the ones that have to reach for that goal because they want to be at that level too end up characterizing themselves, making characters of themselves.
Right. Well, and that's the real art, is to move up the material rungs after you achieve the internal integration, and you're not fielding projections. You talked about how the ego stops us from achieving that success. It's because the ego is constantly fielding projections. The ego is constantly reading the room, mirroring it back, looking for social approval, playing the game, and negating, taking on the projections. And then by the time so all these celebrities, they're the last ones who have it together, because unless they've fully integrated and prepared themselves and they're humble as fuck and they're steady as fuck, and none of them are. So they're all up there walking projections who haven't known themselves forever. It's like it's such a dangerous place to be. It's all dangerous. I mean, in the realm of projection. But human had their hand up. I want to.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that that reminds me of like the protection of our psyche, of our salience, of our understanding of things, and you know that whole point about celebrities of like generational wealth and heirs and uh, the things that get passed down versus the things that are earned for survivability, and then you have like your positive redirection where you're affirming to yourself, hey, this is the thing that I want to achieve, and so I'm going to achieve it. So you've already set yourself that goal. And that kind of reminds me of the whole like when we aren't being completely ourselves. We're talking about the id and the superego. That's called I'm pretty sure Canvas's rink.
You're
Uh,
you're a little bit breaking up. I can hear you mostly, but the last little bit I didn't hear too
oh,
well.
sorry.
Just the last few words.
I was talking. I'll speak a little bit louder. Uh, the id and superego.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like the difference between the ego and superego is the one we don't show anybody at all. We only show that in secret of ourselves. And then the I is like, you know, the people that we want to see us. And that's how we see eye to eye. And we're like, yeah, this is good for me because I feel comfortable. This is the eye that I want other people to see.
Yeah.
And the whole rank of superiority, uh, you know, when you have celebrities like the ones you were talking about, there is a certain type of ego and superego involved in that, and an I. So there's three kind of dichotomies going on all at once, you know, because they're trying to juggle all these things inside them, and it just becomes this bubbling factor of, hey, this is what I protect for myself, this is what I protect for others, this is what I protect for the rest of whoever else I know.
Yeah, and those celebrities that know that and that are doing it intentionally, they are the most sustainable ones in the game. It's like if they know I'm putting on a front, and a lot of them do, like I'm playing a character for the world, and I know it's a character, and I don't bring it home and I don't take it personally, and then when I'm home I'm somebody else. Those are the ones that have potential staying power, I think, because they're not taking the projections personally, and the collective energy of people, when people are aiming into those celebrities' energy, they're not going to find them because they're aiming at the character that they made, you know, and that way you're not taking anyone's response to you personally because they're responding to a character, and it's a very different thing to go forward vulnerably more and more as yourself. Like, it's interesting, when I first started this space, I'm always fluctuating between speaking as Robin and speaking as Aorath, and sometimes I like to channel Aorath and teach from that angle. But depending on who's in the room, for some people, if you're in the framework and you want that channeled teacher experience, Aorath is good for people, and it's good for me because Robin is safe and sound, tucked away, and Aorath is speaking, and Aorath is not Robin, and that's a kind of like a trick that I use, and they can speak from two different perspectives. So I kind of shift depending on the room, both what the room wants and how comfortable I feel being Robin or not.
I like the fact that you gave it a name because that's the most important part, you know, naming it. That's the first part of, you know, identifying who we are and what the problem is to even begin with and how we categorize it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Fun discussion. We can talk so much about the celebrity. Well, interesting, and we've talked about this in other spaces, so it's like cat's out the bag. But the Elon Musk psychosis, I've spoken publicly about it on YouTube for a while, and here on occasion, and I will tell you, I will stumble into spaces where there's like 3 women who have the same experience, it just in one space, and I've heard from maybe half a dozen. With the same arc, the same storyline, exactly. Almost
And
identical.
what do they usually say?
Well, again, I had the same one. Mine lasted for 9 months. It's telepathic contact. It's a voice in the head. It's a hand reaching through the body. And it's things like, for me, it started with, we want to recruit you to be a politician. You just have to follow these instructions. You have to go outside and fall asleep in a designated place, and then we're going to pick you up. That's your consent. Kind of domineering. They're trying to, you get hypnotized, you get knocked out, you feel people digging around in your brain. You see them in your meditation, and then they start to get in more and more. For a lot of women, it ends up being a lot of marriage stuff. I'm looking for my wife. I'm doing it telepathically. I think you're her. You just have to kind of I just have to examine you and ask you a bunch of questions. And, so next thing you know, their lives are falling apart. And, it's a very, my experience took me right to the bottom of, right to the edge of death. A very purifying.
Did they ever name any, like name it, like
Well,
what it
it's Elon
was?
Musk.
Is it all ephemeral?
But
I know, I know. I meant like how I like how you do it though. You're actually naming yourself and naming the parts of you that you understand. And they're not separating anything. They're just concentrated on one thing. They're not concentrated on, actually looking at themselves and going, "Hey, these are the parts of me." Not, "Oh my God, I'm the parts of everything," and not actually like they're just dissenting.
I'm
It
not
just feels
sorry.
like this.
I'm not entirely sure what you mean, but let me speak a little and tell me if I'm on the right track. Is it to say that the manifestation of Elon Musk in my psychic experience, I could name it as a few things. I could say he was my animus, as we said. He could also be described as being the Mara and the demiurge and the antimatter to my matter. So he's playing all of these roles. Is that what you mean, or do you mean something else?
I meant like you're giving them names, so you're identifying them as something. And that's the important part. That's all.
Okay. Go ahead, Beckett.
So I'm curious because I don't experience it as directed, I guess. But I like how you use the animus framework. I think of it as in I am receptive to the desires of other entities around me, and it doesn't have to be any one person. So it might, I mean, like, I'm curious if either I view it from a different lens or you do, or if like we're just having completely different
Yeah, I
experiences.
think you're coming up against something that's like a more diffused version of it. Like starting to, because I see my experience as being, it was like a living bardo is a really good way to understand it. And so the bardo is where you're stripped of the material reality. And so you're just faced with your own dream vividly. And so people who are starting to slip into psychosis or feeling I call it, since not really psychosis, right? It's beyond the veil. So Bigfoot's visions, my visionary crucible or psychosis, you're feeling and hearing the language of the world around you. It's all part of the same thing, which is we're starting to move more and more into the realm of our actual consciousness, not as much filtered by the physical reality. So it has a different flavor depending on where you're at. But what happens in the bardo as you're moving towards the bardo just means your consciousness without all the filters. So as it unfilters, what you're left with is usually, and this is why the Buddha says you must overcome desire and aversion, because it's desire and aversion. Those are the main engines of your consciousness creations. So feeling the desires of others, of energies around you, and feeling pulled by them or drained by them or invigorated by them, that's all part of it. That's all part of you starting to test yourself outside of the physical restraints. How are you going to navigate those? And the goal, of course, being to recognize them all as self and not be swayed by them. And that's way easier said than done. Is that, am I kind of hitting on it, the nature of your experience?
I think so. Well, I mean, maybe. I think too that the interactions, like, I get that it's all self, and yet when I am in community, it's not just my
Right.
energy.
Yeah.
It's everybody's energy. It's a community effect, and then there's individual pulls. So, like, I also see how and why it could be easy to identify energies under one. Because, all right, so here's a more concrete example. There are times when I'll get on a space, and I'm listening to the people in the room, and their energies are also intermingled. And I'm kind of weird in the sense that, like, individual energies sometimes have flavors.
Yes.
So their flavors intermingle, and it's not always easy to tell apart. And sometimes you can tell it's because they're adversaries, or sometimes you can tell it's because they're friends, or they have some sort of friction in their relationship that allows for a more adhesion of their spiritual energy. I don't really know how else to define it. So like when I look at the map that I see or sense of these entities, energies, I'm trying to, like, more sort flavors than I am like an individual identity with a name and a concrete. But I also see, like, how that is beneficial for anchoring, because
I think it's fundamental. I think it's the only language one should speak. I think that's it. And I operate the same way. It's like, who cares the information about the person? And this goes back to sitting at the table with somebody and getting a bad feeling, even though there's $5 million on the table. It's like, I don't care what your name is, where you're from, what your education is, how intelligent you are, or even how nice you are. It's the resonance is all the information you need, in my opinion.
yeah, I wonder, yeah, I don't know if that could even be tested. I'm curious now.
To me, it's immutably well tested. You know what I mean? To me, it's so
Right.
self-evident.
But, like, measurable, like, how can we measure, like, because
Well,
there's always the skeptics.
here's a way to measure it, just in your experience. Because I'm so sensitive to people. This is why, again, I'm brutal in my spaces. Like, if you come to the mic and I don't like you're making my pulse go, which is not hard to do because I'm the canary in the coal mine, you're out. And it's not because I judge you. It's not because you're bad. It's just because I don't want my heart rate going up. It's not, but
I don't want your energy infecting
yeah,
mine. Yeah.
no, it fucking sucks. So
Yeah.
like, no hate to you, bro, but just go where people are talking to each other like that. It's not here. So, but here's the test. It's like, and to me, I've done it a million times. The test, if you want to do it, is when someone rubs you the wrong way. If you really want to find out if you're on the mark or not, even though everyone says they're great and they're so smart and blah, 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 okay, keep hanging out with them and see what happens. That's what I'd say. Because anytime that I've gone against my instinct, and I've had that, like, so many times, oh my God, so many times, I'll enter a new community of people and they're like, oh my God, this woman, she is so smart. She is so great. She's such a kind person. She's a therapist. We go to her with all our problems. There's no one who's going to love you and hold you like this woman's going to hold. And then I meet her and I'm like, what the? No. But I'm like, I must be wrong. And maybe I have some sort of bias, or there's something, and then I go and I keep talking to her. And of course, she's collecting info that she's just going to use to betray me, and she's subtly cutting me down, and she's spreading rumor. You know, it's like I'm always right. I'm always right. And now I'm down to the point that it's a hairline trigger. As soon as I recognize the discordance, I just put it away, because there's only so much room for only so many things. So we may as well curate the hell out of it, in my opinion. And so that tugging, like, and there's so much, I'll riff on this for a bit. I see Human's hand up, but, I mentioned ayahuasca before, but I'm mentioning it again now. One of the first things that the medicine showed me was, so when I had my awakening in 2020, my heart opened, I was pure love, and all I ever saw in everybody was the best. Like, I couldn't see bad to save my life. I like, you could be stabbing me in the heart and I'd be like, I just love you, you're wonderful. And the first thing that I saw with the ayahuasca, they basically just kind of shone a light on everyone in the yurt and was like, here's what everyone in this room is actually thinking about you, and here's on the far side of the spectrum what they would do to you if they had no consequences, and here's what they've done to other people. And it was fucking hard, but it was a wake-up call to the true and present dangers of human beings. It's so real. And so that if you have the inner guidance system to feel what a name and a title and a reputation will never reveal, if you can feel the inherent discordance or harmony of a person, you know, listen to that. And I don't know if I'm way off the mark in responding to what you were offering, but it gave me a good opportunity to riff. So I'll go to Human and then go back to Beckett and see if I'm responding sort of on mark.
I agree. That, I mean, yeah, that reminds me actually of a time when I asked a friend, a recent friend, what they thought about protection. And just like the idea of like, what's the first thing that came to their mind, right? And they were like, my child, I want to protect them, and I want to protect the people that I know that are close to me. I was like, huh, okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's like the raw unconditional love and protection that comes at that acceptance, that radical acceptance that sometimes, I come across.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like tying protection into the love, because that was part of the extension of what I earlier in the conversation, the offering was love with wisdom. Because if you just, and that, you know, if you read the Law of One, that's other channeled material on the nature of reality. Has always been looking for that nature of reality stuff. Now I finally have my own perspective on it, which is fun. But, you know, they say you're here to get love and wisdom, and you need both. If you just have the love, you will be eaten alive. So a purely loving being will actually be tortured more than anything else. And that's kind of the Jesus archetype. If you come in with nothing but an open heart, you'll be attacked brutally. And it's not just because, oh, people are bad, but it's because you're here to learn wisdom. How are you going to learn wisdom if you don't get attacked? So sometimes it's like the more loving you are, the more hateful the world will be until you're wise. And because the wisdom is being able to see things for what they are, being able to accept them as they are. Because then there's that practice of like, well, the love and light practice of, you know, okay, so this person, okay, they want to sleep with you and they're possessive about it and they're this and that, but you should just don't focus on that part as you're in this yurt with them. You know, focus on the good things about them and don't be afraid. Open your heart and be loving and be kind like everybody else. Bullshit. You know, like that's a karmic current. The loving victim who is just going to keep believing that if I just see the best in everybody and I keep an open heart, everything's going to be okay. And I've been robbed and beaten and raped 1,000 times, but I'm sure it's unrelated. It's like, no, it's related. And I'm speaking about myself here. I'm not saying this to anyone else, but that was my life arc. So I'm very brutal now about, you know, people think Robin is such a snob and she's so fast to cut people off. And I'm like, who are you? Nobody, like, the velvet rope between the world and me is far away and hard to pass. And I'm very happy about that. Go ahead, Beckett.
You know, I mean, there's so much to that. I agree. Because as a, I have, all right, gosh, words sometimes. My grandfather, one of my grandfathers was a minister for a while, and he only ever preached about love. So he was in the South, in Alabama, in the Methodist church, in an evangelical, very redneck rural area, that was very conservative in a lot of ways, that did a lot of the hellfire and damnation ministry, and used that to drum up dollars and client, customers, people. But my grandfather instead preached a ministry of love your brother, as pretty much every sermon he ever did. And I wasn't there for a lot of it. I wasn't very religious myself. Never really have been, except to study it. It is fascinating, though, that being that kid that had really only ever heard, love your brother as a religious background. My dad was atheist, right? So, like, they would have conversations about love from several types of angles. It'd be spiritual, it'd be scientific, it'd be emotional, it'd be psychological, it'd be all sorts of things. And then going into a life where I experienced a lot of hardship and a lot of struggles and a lot of varieties of abuse in a lot of different ways. And even physical trauma from accidents, so it's like, you name it, almost. It's not quite true, but it's a lot. To the point that, like, I still think that if I wrote out a book, nobody would believe that I've gotten through all these things and still turned out to be a decent person, but I did, because I had that grounding in this idea that love is going to see me through, because it's the only thing that has ever really caused humanity to look towards the light. Like, I don't have a better way to describe it so succinct. Like, I mean, that's just there's a part of me that just, I open my mouth and words fall out, because they've been in my body for so long. And there was a decade where I couldn't talk, because of a brain injury. So when I say they were stuck in my body, they were literally stuck in my body. And as I transmute that energy now in a state of healing, I'm also literally physically moving my body and breaking up adhesion in fascia, and rebuilding muscles, and sorting out and filtering the toxins through my kidneys and my lungs, and I'm coughing up gunk every time. Like, it's not an impossible process to heal through the quote unquote power of love that we all kind of go, it's kind of woo woo, but is it? I've been there at the bedside of people who've passed. I've been there with animals who've passed. I've been there as they've been sick and healed. Like, I've been in a lot of scenarios where I've watched what it is to love and be loved. And I didn't know it, I wasn't always conscious of it in that moment. But when I had when I had my accident and a brain injury that knocked me out and kept me down for a long time in a wheelchair and a bed, it really caused me to reflect on what it is to exist when everything is taken from you. And then how do you begin to rebuild? Because you can't, like, if you try to do it with anger, you're just going to poison yourself.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I wish you were here when I was sharing because it really echoes what we were talking about love at the bottom of the worst of it. Like, I was sharing at the end of that psychosis and being in a hellscape and being like, I'm the worst. I'm on the street. I won't go through it all again, but it echoes, it parallels your story in some ways, in at least that recognition that at the very bottom, when everything else is gone, if you just have love for no reason, like you said, to hate is to poison, it doesn't help, but it's just there. Just because, not because things are going well, not even because you necessarily deserve it for one reason or another, but just because you can. And because it innately, like once you, if you can get that self-love, that unconditional self-love and the state of love, then everything else, when you can also get to the moment of it is what it is. Like I love hearing your story, because I think so many people, especially attracted to spiritual concepts, are looking to, well, in general, people are looking for the best, to live their best life and to accomplish the most and to find love and to do better. And sometimes the real, chasing those things, going for those things, increasingly actually pulls you away from love, because it keeps externalizing it. And you feel like you get these dopamine hits, you get these satisfaction hits, you get these endorphins. But that's not love. And often you find the love at the very fucking bottom. You find it when nothing is going right, when you've failed and no one's in your corner and you have nothing to be proud of. And that's when you know it's love, because you have no reason for it. It's not coming from any external validation or any dopamine hit that comes from something going well. You're down and out, you're rock bottom, and yet you love yourself. And you may admit, and it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm here as the I am, even if I can't move, even if I can't think, even if I'm on the street, even if I'm in jail, even if I'm whatever. But in this eternalness, this eternal being that is observing this thing that is me, even if I've done, and in my situation, it was like, there was also a kind of metaphysical concept. If I had been told that I was literally the worst in the world and everything I thought I was doing right, I was indeed doing wrong, and I was, damned to hell forever. And I was dying on the streets at the time. And that's when I just sat there and I was like, maybe, like, I don't totally see it, but I accept it. And maybe I see it a little, and maybe, but, like, it just, whatever that fundamental thing is in me didn't break. And I think as long as you don't let that thing break, as long as you make it eternal, and you know that you're with you forever, and it doesn't matter if you screwed up the most ever, it's still there, and you can have it for the world. And we talked earlier about the paradox too, of like, that doesn't mean that you have to like the world. It doesn't mean that I think, and even too, you can hate the world sometimes. Love your hate. And love the world you hate. I'm lucky that like hate and anger don't come, they don't come to stay for me. They come briefly and then they burn off. If it's lingering, that's probably a problem. But if you have a moment, if you have like the experience, like I said, I took off to love isn't to see everything as beautiful. To love is to recognize it is hideous. I love it. And I'm not saying it's right. It's hideous. I love it. But you're not going to yell at somebody. You're not going to yell at your baby into being happier. You're not gonna yell at a mean guy into being nicer. You know, sometimes yelling is effective to getting rid of people, but hi, high-waisted. Nice to see you.
Hi, how's it going? I fell asleep earlier. I would have been here earlier, but I just woke up from an accidental nap.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I did just want to say something helpful that I heard a while back from someone who has loved me unconditionally. Once told me that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, which I think is just an interesting way of looking at it. And it's helped me. Like hate and love can often be two sides of the same coin. It's often like, because, it's what we call hate is often like disappointment. It's like, you scratch a cynic and a disappointed optimist bleeds, right? So it's like, when we feel like, love has failed to live up to our expectations, really is what hate often is disguised as.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Because you care. Because you care. But and just to clarify, because you came in late. It's too bad because we're winding down. But that's the kind of relational and conditional love, right? Like having expectations, or it being between lovers, or your person that loves you unconditionally. Awesome. But we're also talking about love as like just the resting state between you and yourself and all that is, forever and ever, no matter what, period. That's what we're positing here. But it's and we've gone all over the place with discussion. It's too bad, but because I was just gonna say we're at 3 hours and I'm gonna wind down soon. So let's opening it up to final thoughts, final questions, anything anyone, and if anyone's been a listener and is shy, now's your chance to speak now, or for a week, hold your peace. We're back live every Sunday at 8 p.m. And if you're interested, I wasn't channeling Aorath much today, except in the beginning. If you're interested in my frameworks that I offered on my website. There's lots of stuff for free. There's a class. I'm not trying to sell anyone here that thing. That's a really specific thing marketed to really specific people who have lots of money. So I'm not trying to funnel you. But you can brush up on it there so you know what I'm working with, or like what my approach to reality is, if you want to play with it. And I offer a lot on my podcast and YouTube and all of that.
I have really enjoyed your YouTubes. I've gone to watch them.
Oh,
And
good.
it clarifies a lot of things that I think people would naturally have questions about. Yeah.
I did follow that link that you posted earlier to read up before this space. So even though I was late today, I did actually do the homework.
Oh, nice. Okay, great. Yeah, because I think if you are somebody who wants to come to these spaces a lot, reading up on the room mechanics offering will be really helpful, because I do like to explore that framework. But I was going to say, it's a tricky thing, spaces, because in a podcast, I can just speak freely and go in whatever direction I want to go in, and start at the beginning and end at the end. In spaces, it's fluid. People are coming in and out. So I can't really do like the lecture style. And I don't think anyone really wants that anyways. But then sometimes people say, there was too much conversation. I really wanted to hear you speak. So spaces, I'm still getting my bearings on exactly how I want to offer. Sometimes it leans towards the channeling. Depending on who's in the room, I can really channel Aorath, answer some great questions, and we do like very almost classroom style. So sometimes you'll come in and that's what it's like, but it depends on the room. This was a very good, much more back and forth conversational, exploratory space. And that's great too. So, but the more you listen to the content, the better, in terms of just knowing what the heck I'm talking about. Because sometimes I'll use the frameworks. But did it resonate with you, high-waisted, the texts?
Very much so.
Awesome.
I feel like there's been a lot of synchronicity with your content and things that I've been experiencing in my personal life with other people who have a very similar ideas about approaching life, even if they don't use the same language. Like, it all kind of syncs up with things in a very, I don't know, some people call it kismet kind of way. Like, it's just, it feels like I've been encountering your spaces for a reason, and I'm trying not to take that lightly.
Yeah, well, don't take it too seriously either. But that's awesome. That's so good. I'm so glad. That does happen. I'm just starting off. The engine's just warming up with ARF, but I know it's going to be very powerful. And I'll say this too as a kind of a caveat, because I had a podcast before called Lighten Up Your Eternal. It's still available on Spotify. When I was under attack by these guys in my head, they tricked me into deleting it off of Apple and deleting all the original, like all my old content. So really tragic, because I had like a huge following. So I kind of like lost my credibility, lost the whole podcast. But I do know, because I did that for 3 years, and it wasn't as intense as this. It was more love and light, but it did have a pretty serious and positive, like a big effect on people. But some things that happen that I just want to just be aware of moving forward, like the kismet, it could start to initiate spiritual awakening if you're listening regularly. And then the other thing that can happen, and this just happens with anyone you listen to too much, I guess, I can start to get into people's heads. So given that I know that how psychosis starts, like, Elon was in my head. He obviously wasn't literally in my head, but I sure did believe it. I just want to put out the caveat. If I start to get stuck in your head, just kind of take a step back, know that it's not literally me. And, hopefully, just temperance, because I'm going through this with a bit more awareness this time around. And it's like, I want to have an impact in that I want to share the framework, but I want to do it really, really carefully and responsibly, and not create too much of a big vortex, So I think those caveats hopefully help.
I do want to just add to what you were saying about, not taking things too seriously. I've been through a lot, in my life that could be called like extremely traumatic, extremely difficult, lots of pain and grief. But through it all, like, the thing that's always saved me is like having a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it's incredibly important, not to, and I think like one of the things that makes life worth living is the joy that we can, extract from it, even in the worst of times, right?
Yeah.
So like your joy is worth fighting for. It's okay to have fun, even if it seems like it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah. And for no reason.
That, yeah. And by all means, like, just that's what you're fighting for,
Yeah.
is the joy that you have a right to in this life. It's not just that it's okay, but honestly, it's a duty to make this life worth living. And it's otherwise, like, you might run out of reasons to keep fighting, right? Like, if it's not going to be fun, if it's not going to be enjoyable, then like you might just not want to fight for it anymore,
Yeah.
and like, so it's important to hang on to that. That's our humanity, our ability to find that joy. And it's something that I like. Honestly, like, if I didn't have it, if I didn't see a path forward with it, I might not want to see a path forward at all,
Well, and that's a good place to start to wind down on. I saw that Danger or something has come to speaker, so I'll call on you in a second. But I just want to reflect on that. Like, I think what we were talking about, that intrinsic unconditional love, and being able to sit in hell or in paralysis or in, whatever, and have it. It's what you said. It's worth fighting for, even when there's nothing good going on outside, and we can extend that to joy or simplicity or whatever. The more that you have intrinsically in your resting state, no matter what, not because of anything, that's the unconditionality, not because of anything, is just what you're just, I'm having fun. We did that last week. I put that on a short YouTube video, the whole bit about just deciding to have fun with it. Then it doesn't matter what's worth living for, just whatever is. Even if I'm sitting in a dungeon for 10 years, it's me. I like me. for no reason. Okay, Richard and then Danger.
Yeah, here recently I've noticed a lot of vibrational, harmonious synchronicities amongst individuals and their connectivity with others and how they're seeing eye to eye in a lot of different ways. And I like that. I've
Isn't it
been
great?
working at it for a while.
Oh, synchronous. We'll do a space and I'll do a podcast on synchronicity. It's one of my favorite topics. And I think it applies well to what Beckett was talking about with the animals and the sun. Yeah, thanks, Richard. Go ahead, Danger.
I just wanted to say this is like, it's been an awesome space. I've just kind of been listening for a while, and I just wanted to come up to speaker and let you guys know that it's pretty cool to to meet folks like that share similar ideals and stuff on this platform. So yeah,
Awesome.
appreciate
Welcome. Thank
appreciate
you
you.
for coming
Thank
in to say it.
you.
And I was thinking about this the other day. Can we point that out? Like, you guys are just walking around. I mean, some of you are familiar, but I would say only three of you here even knew me, I think, before this moment. Richard said he saw me in a few spaces, but you didn't know what you were clicking on. And I know the algorithm starts to sync people up, but come on, isn't it stunning how we all end up in the same place at the same time, needing to talk about the same things and in harmony? And this is that kind of synchronicity, because when you're out of sync, I've hopped around spaces before and I walk in and everyone's just going, no, Drake is the best, or what, it's like, what's going on here? This isn't right. So it's always an indication of one's own alignment when one is in increasingly synchronous environments. And I notice in these spaces more and more, and I get thrown off. Like when I start a space and I got unharmonious energies in the room, I'm kind of like, we're going to have to get through the bumpy terrain until I align, and I'm going to have to align in spite of it, or weed it out, or find a way through. And then when I'm in resonance harmonics, the people who are in harmony with me will gravitate. There is a gravity to it. It's way more than the algorithm. It is a gravity. That is like the gravity, the algorithm of the universe. And then here we are, and people come in, they're like, oh, that's exactly what I was just thinking about.
It certainly pulls you in. There's a magnetism to it. I love resonance, and I love thinking about it in musical terms. Like Danger Devon plays guitar, so he'd understand the waveform of a guitar string and how beautiful it is. And I feel like it is a perfect image of how sound and the resonant frequency like encapsulates and provides safety or sanctuary or something like that.
When you're in alignment and in resonance, that is that safety. That is, and going back to the image of Jesus, I think somebody said, like, he could walk through a battlefield with bullets flying all over and not get touched by one, because the getting hit by a bullet is a discordant resonance. It's a discordant, it's the opposite of resonance. It's a discordant occurrence. And he's not in a discordant state. So he cannot have a discordant reality. And that is really room mechanics at its core, is understanding how to tune yourself and therefore your reality. So as long as you're in harmony, period. And it doesn't matter what's going on around you. But the moment you respond to what's going on around you with like energy, with disharmonious energy, then you activate it, and then you create the potential to experience it. Go ahead, Richard. Oh, go ahead, Beckett.
Just real quick, is that right there is why truth is so important, and the truth is a resonant factor in your body.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. We'll talk about truth and distortion. That's another topic. And that's such a huge, huge one. And when I had my battle with my animus, his favorite thing is to distort truth to the point that you don't know what's up and what's down ever. And it's a destabilization of reality process. Oh, God. Yeah, we'll go there. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah. Hey, I posted a comment down there, a video clip with me talking to the deer outside my office window. Hey,
Oh,
everybody get a laugh of that.
I can see it. Fun, fun, fun.
Well,
Wait, you have a video of you talking to a deer?
for
That's
It's in the
awesome.
purple pill.
yeah,
Yeah, I just saw that. I have a video of me talking to a bird. Like I thought that I was the only one that did that. Like,
Well, Beckett came in talking about talking to animals, so we've got 3 in the room.
Oh, I've fed deer, I've fed sparrows, I've fed blue jays right out of my hand. I love animals too.
I have a story in my, if you ever get really bored and want to listen to my whole story, it's on YouTube. And there's a thing about feeding chipmunk, how I used to feed chipmunks in the park, but then when I was getting dragged down into the hellscape, I broke my foot in the park, and then those same chipmunks who I would feed were like demonically running up my bloody legs. It went so dark so fast.
my, I don't have the immediate access to it, but I did have a video where I used to walk a lot for my job. I didn't have transportation, so I would always encounter animals. And like I found this bird that kept flying into a window that was reflective, like
Oh.
it. So it kept flying straight into this window over and over and over again. And I went over to this bird, and I was like, this poor confused bird, like it doesn't know what to do. And I just talked it down. I was just like, man, you got to stop flying into this window. Like, that's not another bird. That's you. Like, you're just seeing your reflection. You want to go the other way, man. And I talked him out of it, and he finally figured it out and went the other way. And I don't know. It felt like in that moment I had to help him. Like,
That's another good illustration for room mechanics. It's like, dude, it's your reflection. Stop nosediving for it. Did it change?
what meaning, like the
Like, did the
bird?
bird stop? Yeah, did it work?
Yeah, I mean, I talked, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I had to kind of, I got his attention away from what he was kind of obsessing over, which was like that he kept trying to fly in this direction that wasn't allowing him to go anywhere. And I just said, bird, you got to pay attention, like, to me right now. Come this way, follow my voice. And like, I forget exactly what I said. It was a few years ago, but
I
I've got
love
the
it.
video somewhere.
I love it.
And I finally got him to fly the other way, and he disappeared into the night. It was just like kind of a magical little moment that I remember fondly. It's probably not important, but
Oh, it's totally important. Well, it's making me think so much of room mechanics because it's the core. Like, really, we could use that story to illustrate it. You just keep running at your reflection because you don't, and as soon as you realize it's your reflection, the pain dissipates. It's not so hard. You're not bumping your head against it. And also, Bigfoot's gone, but he was talking about unintentional mirror magic earlier. So mirrors have been a theme. Oh God. Okay. Sad to let the space go. It's so good. I've enjoyed and I know Becca's been like listening and attending. I don't know if we had spoken before now so much. So it was so great to hear you and your stories. To our listeners who haven't grabbed a mic, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I hope that you got something out of it. I generally do delete the recordings after a while and post clips on YouTube. So yeah, do listen to the podcast and come back on Sundays and follow. Give us a follow. All right. Bye, guys.